All right, thank you. All right. Any amendments to the agenda tonight? Oh, sorry. Oh, all right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, announcements. Public participation policy applies to all selectmen's meetings. A copy of it is on the back of each agenda posted in this meeting room and on our website. The Alton Town Clerk Tax Collector's Office will be closed Tuesday, November 8th, 2022 for the general election at the St. Catherine Drexel Church. We're scheduled for a public hearing on Laurel Lane, Hopeswell and Brickyard, but we can't start that until 6:05, so we got a couple minutes to sit.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with the board, at this point, would it be all right for me to have a discussion with the board about voting tomorrow? Just the clerk had asked for me to talk to the board like we usually do around voting, get a kind of a consensus of what the board members can do as far as attendance at voting. Do you gentlemen had a chance to think about that?
By all means,
I'll be there in the morning, between 7:15.
And I'll be there with Paul.
Okay.
I'll be in the afternoon. Once I get out of work, I'll be up.
I'll fill in if I'm in the afternoon, whatever gap.
I can go up between 1 and 4:30.
1 and 4? Okay.
So you want to do what we did the last time and we'll go up 4:30 to end?
Yeah, I'll be there at 4. when
Okay.
everyone leaves, and then we'll stay to the end and do
Do the count and whatnot.
Okay,
All right.
so then
And you come back up or you stay, are you gonna stay?
Well, I'll probably stay till 4.
Okay.
And I'll leave, and if I'm needed to come back, if somebody just.
I think me and Andrew can sign.
I will say though, that the one thing she just cautioned us about to relay is there was an enormous amount of absentee ballots. I know that the request was well over 400, and as of like the end of last week, when I checked in with her, I think they had already had 370 that were executed.
Bring your Band-Aids, Andrew.
I can go back up after 6 if they need me. All you gotta do is give me a call.
Okay.
As long as we'll be there during the day.
You gotta have at least 3 signatures on the tape,
On
I
the
believe,
tape,
after
right.
that.
Okay. I'll get with Jen, make sure she's aware of that.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to now open the public hearing for Laurel Lane, Hopewell and Brickyard. Anybody would like to come up and make some comments? Yep,
You know, sir.
come on up. Have a seat. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for the chance to be here, Mr. Chairman and members of the Select Board. My name is Bob Best. I'm an attorney at Soloway and Hollis, and I represent Gary and Sandra Bear with respect to Hopewell and Brickyard Road. I don't know if Laurel or Laura Road is part or if
No, Laura is a separate road.
application. Okay, I hope I didn't step in front of somebody that. looked at
That's
their
all right.
The floor is
presentation.
yours.
I have not had the pleasure of being part of one of your hearings to accept a road before, so I don't know how formal or thorough you want to be, or whether you want me to give you just an overview and answer questions, or what's the best approach for the board. I can do anything that you like. Proceed as
I
I
mean, I
would.
think we're,
Stay out the background.
If it pleases the board, I'll give you a quick overview as far as where we've been with this. So, so with Brickyard Cove, we did speak and the board approved a easement for Brickyard, given the extensive title issues going way back in the early 1900s. So for that portion, we have made an easement. I believe the attorney here present today has a warranty deed for Hopewell for the town, except this is all as a result of direct communication with town council. Stephen Whitley had worked through all of the paperwork, was a part of the conversations in the language in the deed. And also the Public Works Director has gone out since and inspected the road and gone through those areas that are looking to be approved as well. But as far as any further questions the board has about, how things came to fruition, I know some of you were probably around when this thing started, but it was back in the mid to late 90s.
That's it.
So it's been in existence during my entire career here with the town. So any other questions that you might have, by all means, I just wanted to make sure the board knew that the documentation that you're looking at is direct result as legal review and direct conversation between the attorneys themselves to put that together. So.
Well, I was hoping, Mr. Chairman, that before we open it up to the public input of the public hearing, we would have heard from our Department of Public Works Director to make sure that it meets and or exceeds the requirements for the town of Alton for their highways. That would have been the easiest maybe way to start, and then let the folks say why they feel it should be accepted. As long as it meets the needs and requirements of the town of Alton, there is no need.
Oh, I was under
I'll
the
say
impression that we talked to Scott about, we did talk to us about Hopeswell and whatnot, correct? Yeah, I thought we already spoke on that. I
Did, but
apologize.
it's still for the audience on behalf of the town.
Sure.
And that's normally what we normally do is take the recommendation of them, then open up to the public afterwards. But I mean, that's just what I would like to hear, because there's nothing in the packet itself as a cover letter saying meets all requirements, even after everything's gone through the paperwork, that it still meets requirements and satisfactory of the Department of Public Works.
Mr. Kinman,
So this all started long time ago. Ken Roberts was very much involved in the early stages of the approval process. And then after I came on board, I also reviewed the roadway itself and took a look at it, and then provided additional feedback relative to some additional tree trimming and such that needed to be done with the road itself. Ken had actually gone through and done a bunch of that as well with the road surface as far as crack sealing to be done. With that, there was only one issue that I don't know if it is in the documentation that was provided relative to any of the easement issues, is just in regards to the ornamental wall that's been constructed on the road relative to having to have some form of a it would be within the meets and bounds of that. So the wall that was constructed down there is pretty substantial, and that was brought up in the overview and review of that. And from what I also understand, the ornamental trees that have been there, I believe that was part of the discussion that Ken had also, that those needed to be maintained by others versus being maintained, so to speak, by the town. We don't do leaf collection. We don't do any of that. So from what I understand, that will be taken care of by the property owners that are abutters to the roadway itself. But there is a wall down there that is clearly in the right of way for the meets and bounds, and they would have to have some form of a sign off if in fact it was damaged by the town. Snow removal being one of the key factors there. Other than that, I believe all the other conditions were met. I don't know if there was that was called out to actually be written in there as a stipulation.
The summary certainly sounds right, and I can provide a little bit more of the background of what's going on here. So Brickyard Cove Road is a Class 6 town road that's existed since the early 1900s when it was first laid out, and it connects to Roberts Cove Road. And I have a few plans and maps if you care to see them, or maybe you guys already have that in your materials if you sort of want something to get your bearings for where this is located. Would you like me to pass those around? And
It should be in your packet.
Yeah.
I'll set with that.
we have
All right, good. So Brickyard Cove Road extends from Roberts Cove Road up to where in 1995 Hopewell Road began. And then Brickyard Road also sort of continues past that a little bit. We're not talking about the piece that goes past it. That's still remaining private or class 6. But the request that we have here is to reclassify the class 6 piece, or to accept the class 6 piece as a class 5 road from Roberts Cove to the beginning of Hopewell, and then to accept Hopewell Road. So they'll both be public roads going forward. Hopewell Road was built as a part of the subdivision back in 1995. The original intent was that it was going to stay private. That intent changed over time, but the road was built to standards. There was the inspection that was done and noted a few issues. One of them was with some tree trimming that needed to be done. I can tell you that my clients have contracted with Bartlett tree experts to go do that tree trimming. They just haven't been able to get out there just yet because that's the way the world works these days. You just can't ever get anyone to be able to fit things in their schedule. But they will get it done. They will get it done this season. I have a copy of the contract that can be in the record if you guys need it to be. With respect to the ornamental wall, what had occurred there, I think it's 142 Hopewell Road. I think that's the number. Very close to the end. When it was inspected, the owner of that property had built this ornamental wall on the right side of the driveway, which extends a few feet into the right of way. And I think there's been some discussion about what that means and what it would be. And I think the discussion that you mentioned with, you know, as long as there's some sign off from the owner that if it was damaged, I think those kinds of things we could work through and work out, get you whatever you needed for a sign off. But I don't think that one, it doesn't extend very far. Since that time, and this is sort of recent news to me within the last week, the owners built the wall on the left side of their driveway, which also extends into the right of way a fair bit more than the one on the right side. And so I wanted to present that to you. I don't want to sort of pretend like it doesn't exist. And then, you know, you guys find out about it next week and think this guy Bob's no good. So it's out there. If that one requires the same kind of sign off where it's just a matter of, you know, agreeing that if it gets damaged, it's not our fault, that can, I'm sure, be achieved. We would be able to go find a way to get that done. And maybe that could be a condition of approval. If when you look at it, it is something more and it needs to be removed or moved back like that, we would certainly take responsibility for making that happen as well. But I wanted to let you know that there is that other intrusion into the right of way. In terms of ornamental trees and all of that, I hadn't been a part of that discussion, but obviously we can make sure that the homeowners know that those kinds of plantings are their responsibility, not the town's responsibility. I think that covered all of the things that are going on here. There was quite a bit of back and forth discussion, and you guys had the opportunity a month or so ago to understand more about Brickyard Road and agreed that you could accept it based on it being shown on a plan, which was the 1995 plan. And that puts it in the same category as Hopewell Road, where you're eligible to do that. We also think there may be one or two of the neighbors on the street here today who could also testify on their own behalf in terms of being in favor of having it taken over. Much simpler for the people who live out there to have the town manage it rather than having to find some cooperative agreement between themselves to figure out how to deal with the maintenance in the snow and things like that. And obviously they are, taxpayers in town, and as you would any other street that's, proposed as a part of a subdivision, it certainly is eligible for your consideration as a acceptance as a town road. That's all that I have for you. I would think if the wall that intrudes, or the two walls that intrude into the right of way, require some sign off, and you would accept the road with that condition, that could be a perfectly good approach to this, and we would manage our end of that to make sure that that condition was fulfilled. I do have a signed copy of the warranty deed. It is a scanned copy. The original is actually on FedEx on its way to me. But these days, with recording things at the Registry of Deeds, they're all done electronically from home anyway, so the scans are still recordable. Does that answer all the questions, or are there more questions, or did you want to add anything more?
I don't think so. I'm Mark Sargent, and I'm an agent for the Bears, and I've been involved with the project since 1994. And I was there when the road was originally constructed. It was inspected by the town during the initial construction of it. And I don't know, probably all of you have driven down it at one time or another. It's a well-constructed road, really no issues. I met with Ken a year or so ago, and he had suggested that we get the cracks filled, which we did. He had suggested some tree trimming along those ornamental trees that are kind of up towards the end of the road, and expressed that, the town wouldn't be responsible if, they whacked a tree branch or anything like that. And the neighbors understand that because they've been maintaining those trees themselves anyway. Recently, we did walk the road again, and the new road agent would like some additional trimming done. And I met with Bartlett, we've walked that over. They're ready to do that. Unfortunately, they couldn't even get a schedule until sometime in December. So we're prepared to do that as long as the town is willing to accept the road. So if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm good right now.
You gentlemen have any questions?
What kind of an agreement would we looking at for that stone wall issue?
The notion of what we're talking about with the sign off is something I hadn't been alerted to the possibility of until we sat down here, but I assume that means that a letter from the owner where the owner of that property is acknowledging that.
Town if something's damaged.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And we'd probably want to do that in a way that could be recorded at the registry of deeds so that the next owner and the next owner and the next owner is all aware of that.
Then one other thing, Mr. Chairman, if we ever had to go in and do some work along that edge and we had to move the stone wall, that the town should not be responsible to replace it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I could just add,
Yeah.
there should also be in there a waiver of liability relative to if there's a motor vehicle accident that should occur, that the town would not be subject to the liability because it's constructed with, would be then constructed within the town's right of way. So, anytime somebody should have any of those types of obstructions out there, generally there's a sign off for damage and then also a sign off for waiver of liability. Normally, we would not have anything in the town's right of way if we can help, have that, but we all know things are different.
And I can tell you, we were very careful when we were constructing the road. Those ornamental walls that kind of line the right of way were beyond the limits of the right of way. And this was kind of a surprise to us when we found out this work had been done.
Now, this location is very near the end of Hopewell Road. There's probably only one or two houses further down, I think. Does that sound right?
Oh, 3 houses.
Three houses. So there is not a great number of cars that are passing by the wall or doing it at high speed to get, to the highway or something like that. So.
Other questions?
Absolutely.
This property, this road is being maintained privately now.
It is.
And so forth. If the town takes it over, will we be adjusting the home evaluations at all? As I've been told in the past, private roads, valuation of the home is adjusted for the owners being responsible maintenance.
That would be something I would have to run by the assessor. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer for you right now. Based on his evaluating criteria, we have not had that discussion for private versus public roads. Yeah, I would. I don't want to venture out on that without actually talking to him firsthand to find out how that relates to his assessing criteria.
Should look into.
From our viewpoint, it ultimately, we don't have a dog in that fight. You assess the houses, the values, however you see fit. It doesn't really have much to do with, what we're asking to have happen.
Yeah.
I think if that's the way the assessor sees fit to make the values, then is what it is. Obviously, they're very significant properties out there that obviously paying a bunch of taxes too. So although there's a little bit of added cost for plowing this section of the road, it should be more than offset by the taxpayer value that's out there already.
Anybody else? Anything? All right, I will. Yeah, is there any more input on?
I don't know if anyone else wants to.
Questions?
Sure.
How many homes are on this road and?
I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure somebody here does. I'm looking at it right now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it looks like there's 9.
9? And why aren't you requiring the stone walls to be moved back so that we have the right of way where it's supposed to be? It sounded to me like you're giving waivers for the stone walls to be in the right of way. Is that the idea?
It's either that or jackhammer them out.
How much are they into the right of way?
I'd have to go out and actually pull a measurement on it, but the new walls and the one that's on the left-hand side that was spoken of is more substantial than the one that was on the right-hand side. So there's no doubt that it's in the right of way, several feet.
4, 5, 6,
Anyways,
6 feet?
pretty close to it.
Okay, thank you.
The right of way, I believe, is 50 feet all the way down through there.
Yeah.
So the roadway itself, I believe, is a 22-foot, roughly 24-foot paved surface, just to give you a little bit of insight. So
Thank you.
I'd just like.
24-foot paved surface, so it's bigger than most of the town roads.
I would think so, yes.
And I'd just like to clarify for the board and with that, because you did use the term a waiver. The proposal would not be, the proposal would not be a waiver for the word. It would be a release of liability for the town. Meaning that, so the town is held it's a hold harmless agreement because of the location. I believe that those aren't dry stack. Are you referring, it's not a dry stacked wall, it's mortared in. That's why he was referring to jackhammer in it.
Anybody willing to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
well, I'd like to have a little discussion on it.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Carr did bring up a good point. Is that to mean to say if somebody wanted to build a stone wall within the state right away next to their town right away next to their property, the town would give them a waiver too and hold it down harmless liability?
normally not, because if somebody asked for permission ahead of time, you wouldn't grant it.
Thank you.
But this is a situation, unfortunately, we find that property owners do a lot of different things, as we know, and they construct fences and stone walls, and unfortunately, we haven't had any, of these type of release of liability. So
Correct. All I'm saying is devil's advocate. You're allowing it in this occasion. You're accepting a road that hasn't been accepted before. There's something already in the right of way that shouldn't be. And normally in my past year's experience, Southview Lane was one of them. We had something in the right of way then, the selectmen asked them, and before we would accept it, it had to be removed out of the right of way.
Yep.
There's
no doubt I'd much rather have it out of the right of way, because I don't want to damage my equipment, and I don't want to damage their property. So
A lot of cases where situations like this, it comes before the zoning board. Comes before the zoning as far as if something is encroaching into the road or in a right of way or an easement, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it goes into a special exception application. So.
Yeah. No, and just to be clear, I mean, I think you understand is what town council said that it advised that there wouldn't be a problem. Something could be drafted to protect the town. But again, we're not saying that or trying to authorize it. We're putting it out to the board as an option. We can do this, or we can do it obviously a different way. So it's at the purview of the board is to decide whether or not you want to, how you want to address the situation.
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, we don't know how close.
The wall is,
Yeah, I mean, how intrusive is it? Is it?
How far is it from?
is it potentially able to damage our trucks from plowing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it could certainly, not, I mean, I haven't made a measurement off the edge of the pavement. I don't know if Sergeant has, but
Well,
pretty darn close.
it is. And, the wall itself is, I would guess, maybe 4 feet wide. It's very decorative,
Mhm.
and it looks great. But it comes kind of almost perpendicular into the right of way.
Right away.
And it comes right up to the edge of pavement. And, they put their mailbox inside this stone wall, so.
Okay, so it's close.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying, you go look at it, it's right on the edge of the pavement. The one on the right-hand side is they're coming out of the driveway. It's really just barely, maybe a foot or two over the right of way itself. It's not even close to the edge of pavement, but the one on the left-hand side is right there, so. There's no denying it. I mean, they are infringing upon the Bears, that's the Bears property, and they're infringing upon the Bears property without their permission.
And the one we're talking about, just to be clear, is the one that just got constructed.
142.
Yeah,
That's the only.
that wasn't the original one that was part of the walkthrough.
You said there's a mailbox built into the wall. So is that gonna fall under, are we gonna? Mailboxes have right away and I right away without. Yeah, I see where this is
Oh,
going.
Mr. Chairman, they don't, and you bring up a good point, because that was my next one, mailbox. We get enough complaints on the wings hitting the mailboxes as it is during the winter time, which they're within the state right away. And people get upset. They call Mr. Kiven's office. I see the highway come in and buy mailboxes, which I don't feel they should have to unless it's very negligent on the driver. But at 2:00 in the morning, blinding snow, especially coming off that lake, and if they hit a mailbox up there, I'm sure his office is going to get called. And we have no liability on it. The town's been pretty good in most instances replacing them, which I don't think they really even have to do that. But I really think, I would ask the chairman to hold off making any decisions on any of the roads till we have the whole public
Yep.
hearing on all the roads, and then we make our decision then.
Sure.
So we get through them. That's what I'm asking.
Well, it almost sounds to me like if somebody hit that mailbox, we'd be calling a tow truck too.
Oh, yeah.
Is it something that we should possibly think about as far as zoning, going back to the zoning issue on the private properties on either side, and who is responsible for the walls?
I think
Is that
what
getting
the
too-
issue is right now is the fact that the properties involved, none of it involves town property right now because we haven't accepted the road.
Right.
So I guess that doesn't why it doesn't fall under the zoning ordinance as far as an
But if we
encroachment.
accept it, then
If you accept it,
is what I'm getting at.
then we're,
Once we accept it, now it's an encroachment on the road. We accept it, and we normally do not accept that unless it's a special exception
Mhm.
and it's applied for by zoning and approved by zoning. So that just I'm just mentioning that. So,
No, I agree. And I hate to tie these folks up any longer, but we got to protect the interests of the town too. We can't. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt if you guys were in a deliberation where the comments from us weren't appropriate. I think a couple of things to think about in this is you got some feedback from the legal, your legal counsel that says a document can be drafted that protects the town from having any liability, and that includes liability for a mailbox if a mailbox is damaged. I don't want the mailbox to be damaged anyway, but I think in addition to that, what we've offered up is that if you decide as a condition of approval that this wall has to move, make that your condition of approval and let us get about the business of checking that box and moving that rather than continuing to have additional public hearings and doing all that sort of thing. It has been a very long road, I think, as yet introduced it in terms of trying to get these roads approved. I think years even that this has been in the process of discussions back and forth. And we'd certainly like to be able to have light at the end of the tunnel. And you do have a path before you that protects all your interests and rights. You know, you can have a document that absolves the town of responsibility for it, whatever happens because of it. Either it gets damaged or it hurts something else. But also you have the ability to impose a condition that says, hey, Gary and Sandra Bear, we accept your road on the condition that this obstruction be abated to some degree. I don't know if it needs to be completely 15 feet back from the edge of the road or whatever the edge of the right of way is, but whatever works for everybody, where everybody has a comfort level from it. Would certainly rather see that result rather than have some things to check off on a to-do list and then come back here again and do more hearings and take your valuable time for that, if that's possible. Anyway. Thank you for the.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I almost wouldn't have a problem approving this if we could have our attorney draft something up, calling us away from the liability from it and from the stone wall. However, the director would like to have it away from the road, instead of holding it up, like you said, and having us all tied up here doing this. But as long as our attorney can draft something up protecting the town from all the liabilities and whatnot, would that be something that you could work with, Scott, and with your input on where the wall needs to be, if it needs to be moved?
Sounds like we need to take a few measurements and
Right.
get exact count of exactly where it is, what the encroachment really is, and what we can do from
I
there.
think it's done now. Am I correct on that? I know.
Oh, it's built.
It's all completed now.
Yeah.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
my opinion would be that we can accept this road upon the removal of that wall.
Yep.
Of both walls out of this town's right away.
Right.
And then then you don't have any waivers you have to worry about or anything else. I mean, I have no problem having conditional approval, but once the wall was removed to the satisfaction of the Department of Public Works and the town administrator, then we can move ahead forward with taking that road over and doing year-round maintenance on it. At least that's my feeling.
No, and I agree with that as well.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I think
was
we're all
gonna
on the same
suggest
page
that.
with that.
What's the liability if one of our plow trucks hits that stone?
Well, that's what I was just gonna get at. We have,
We're down a plow truck for.
if we have to hit that and pay for the mailbox, what happens if our truck that's destroyed from
Especially
hitting
if it's
it?
that close to the road, if it's mailbox. So, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
It takes
So,
all doubt out. It takes everything, pushes it back, and then there is no other issues with the road. I think it's the way to go.
Yep.
are you okay with that, Scott? As far as moving, if the walls are moved, we.
Mr.
Oh, go
Chairman,
ahead, sir.
I just wanted to get a clarification with respect to the walls. I don't think we don't, we've sort of got no love for the wall at all. We didn't create it or build it or whatever. Happy if it would go away completely, but does it need to go away completely out of 15 feet back from the pavement right of way? Or does it need to get far enough back that Scott can know that his equipment won't be damaged or affected?
As far as, I mean, it's up to the board, it is, but I would think whatever the Public Works Director feels is back far enough so it's not gonna damage the, and
We're accepting the road as a town, and we're taking responsibility and taking the road over. It should meet the standard of what a 25-foot setback would be from the road. And the only exceptions to that is septic systems and wells and things like that, but any permanent structure should be
Sure. So
5 feet.
there are already telephone and other utilities that are in the right of way. Actually, this wall that goes all the way out was covering up the view of some of those structures. And I do know the idea. I'm sort of serve on the planning board in my town, so I get to these questions quite a bit. The reason for having a 50-foot wide right of way is the prospects that someday the road might need to be expanded, or you've got to build drainage structures, or you might have some things going on. This is certainly a unique property where those kinds of circumstances aren't likely. I mean, there's no way to widen this road or have it go to anywhere else other than the last 3 houses on the road. And so functionally, what do you accomplish by saying the wall that sticks out a foot or two into the right of way can't be there? If it was an old stone wall that we have all over New Hampshire, it's pretty routine that towns don't require those things to be moved out of a right of way if they happen to be in one, and that sort of thing. So I was hoping that I could encourage you to think of it from a practical standpoint in terms of what's the ultimate objective for having the right of way. But honestly, if you decide, I don't want something extending 1 inch into it, then that's the result I'll certainly take back. It seems to be a rather tough approach to take to it, given that it doesn't really accomplish any municipal objective to say, this wall can't, be within I don't know what it is, 12, 15 feet of the edge of the pavement. There's also in virtually every road, trees and signs that sit within the same right of way, and we always work around
on the
those
same
things as well.
aspect of that. If the wall was created into our right of way without permission from the town to begin with, because I don't believe that anybody came and asked the Board of Selectmen or that they could put a wall there. So I think we're working off two different things. I mean, if we want the road to be taken over, we want the wall removed.
I just find it hard to believe that somebody would go and build a wall just recently, if I just heard. While they knew the town is going to be looking, taking the road over, and they knowingly, and I'd have to say they knowingly knew they put it in the town's right of way. Well, I understand the utilities and the utility boxes and everything else. Those are all on major developments now, which they are, when the town takes it over, they're listed just like a telephone pole is. We have easements for them. And that's to the public's good and the public's interest. But a stone wall knowingly put into now, you just stated it, just recently, when they knew all this paperwork was being done and the right away was laid out, people had to sign off things. That's not the selectmen's fault or the town's fault. That is that landowner's fault. Now, do they need to go to the ZBA and say, can we get it just off of the town's right away? As long as it's out of the town's right away, I don't care. I just don't feel it should be in the town's right away.
Fair enough. I can't speak to the property owner's knowledge about applying for this public road or not. We're completely separate parties. They certainly knew that it was the Bears property, and they chose to do what they did. But I can't speak to whether they had any knowledge at all of the effort to come
But
here.
they must have known that you guys were coming in for road acceptance, I would have thought, because you would have had to notify all the abutters, correct?
I don't think that there is a butter notification other than publication in the paper for road acceptance. But either way, maybe they did, maybe they, I don't know. I can't speak to it. But either way, if it's the will of the board that the walls have to go every last millimeter of them, I don't have a dog in that fight.
Oh, that's that I understand. I myself personally would just like to see it out of the right of way.
Yeah.
Because you're right, stone walls are there, and I've seen stone walls disappear from ditching. Boundary lines change because stone walls have moved in the state of New Hampshire, so and they're right on the edge of the right of way. That's the right of way of the town road and the people's property. So I myself, as long as it's out of the right of way, I would be satisfied with that.
How long ago was the right-hand side wall done?
I don't know. That was
They were
the,
both done this past summer.
So they're
What?
recent.
I thought it was more all over.
I think when Scott and I went out there, it was under construction when we went out there. But the one on the, it'd be on the left-hand side as you're going into the driveway, that was more recent. They were working on the one on the right-hand side when we were out there. We thought it might be an issue, and it's just,
All right,
like I said, on the
well-
right-hand side, it's a very slight issue.
let's see if there's anybody else in the public that would like to speak on it first, and we'll figure out how we're gonna. Anybody else?
I would specify Hopewell or Brickyard. Anybody else for Hopewell?
Oh, yeah. Anybody else for Hopewell or Brickyard? I'm sorry. All right.
So we're gonna continue with Laura Lane.
Yeah.
Like you wanted to hear Laura Lane first before we.
Yeah,
take any
so-
vote.
I would just think that we hear all the roads.
Sure.
Yep,
Done, and
okay.
then we make a final decision tonight, or we make the decision another night.
Yeah.
That was my intent. As far as process, I wasn't sure, but I was gonna have Scott speak to him. Well, because he did go out and do his inspections after the last meeting we had, but we hadn't had legal sign off yet. So- Jen, will give us a minute. We'll
Yep.
talk about Laura Lane.
So-
So, if it pleases the board, I can give you a quick oversight or overview of this one as well. So Laura Lane had come a while back. It's another subdivision that's been in existence and is occupied for quite some time. The original developer, plus a lot of the residents who have an interest in this that now reside on that road are present here tonight. So we had to go through what held this up from a legal standpoint and going through just the background, because you see there's a couple of warranty deeds. There's several of them. When this went back to legal for review to our town council, they had not done, the developers had not done a updated title search from the original proposal in 2019. Our legal counsel insisted on an updated, obviously, title search to current. That's when it was discovered that when the residents there now bought their properties, built their homes, they actually took over partial of the land out into the roadway. So that's what took a little while going back, and that's why you see so many deeds, because we actually have a warranty deed from the Scribners, which are the developers of the property. And then you'll see individual deeds from the property owners along that road, signing off as well to the town for acceptance of that road. So the title search and the warranty deeds is what cleared up things from town council's side of everything. And we do have all that paperwork, the originals. And I will let Scott speak to the road, because I know he did an inspection of that road as well.
Yeah, so we did the inspection of the road with the town engineer as well, the town planner. Went over the road and everything that we had brought up on the list. The engineer actually formalized that into a written document to the folks, and they went ahead and took care of those. I went up, signed off on those. They had been completed relative to the pavement repairs that were necessary, and getting those all buttoned up and ready to go. They also have, I believe, have it already set up and set aside escrow funds as well. I believe asphalt rubber chip seal that had been recommended to do to the road itself. So that had been set up originally, working through the planning office there to set that up and do that in conjunction with the town. As you know, this year we did not do that because of our cost and asphalt go through the roof, so to speak. And so we did not do any asphalt rubber chip seal, or we would have actually done that ahead of time. But we still have that in the queue. It still is on our list to take care of that and utilize those escrow monies that were set aside for that purpose to be able to do that. So other than that, the road's in good conditions. It's short, has a paved cul-de-sac at the very top. And it is utilized, I believe, still by the school. Nope, no bus
No.
anymore. So I guess the kiddos have grown up or moved away, so we don't have any more bus coming up. So
Well, basically, one of the tenants up, one of the owners up in the cul-de-sac informed the bus driver that it was a private road and that technically the school department shouldn't have been using it at that time. The cul-de-sac is huge. And the last road is Reed Road, which the bus now has to make that triangular turn in order to go up, turn around and then head back into Alton. Actually, our road is perfect for that. It's tarred, there's no encroachments, there's no stone walls, there's nothing to hinder any of that. And as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, Scott, did you have more to say?
No, I was just saying it is an ideal.
It is, it really, even fire trucks. I mean, I know there was a time when fire trucks come up and they park up there. I think they used them for photo shoots at one point or taking pictures up there or whatever. So it's sizable. It is a road that 2 cars, 2 trucks can pass easily by, no problem. I will talk about the warranty deeds because I became very involved in escalating and seeing that all of this was concerned from the 4 owners. There are 4 owners. 1 owner owns 2 of the properties. And we worked diligently with Stephen Whitley to make sure that the easements are all taken care of from the end of our property where it should be, the 15 feet into the middle of the road. We worked with an attorney Dunn out of Concord, and Stephen and the 3 of us together. It got to a point where they realized that they didn't have the easement and slopes the night before we were supposed to deliver them to Ryan. And so Attorney Dunn and I were sitting there pulling all that together to make sure that we would be prepared for you guys. So the road is in, as Scott said, good condition. We've gone out of our way. Most of the tenants, the owners of the property up there, we're all over 65, all over 68. So it's a road that if something happens, we'd like to have the fire trucks or like to have the emergency vehicles be able to get up there. It's such a large road that just having a truck plow it is not acceptable anymore because they just go straight up and they don't even clear the cul-de-sac. So if there was an emergency, it would be hard for them to do that. Do you have any questions for me as to what we need to further do, which I think we've done just about everything you have asked to get the road accepted. So we're hoping that you will accept. I represent 1 owner that's in Florida. They go down, they left, but they made sure and did everything they could to make sure they were here to sign the papers.
Yep.
I have Mrs. Wallace here, who lives next door to me, and the other owner, Mr. Scribner's wife, had passed away a year ago today, so this was very hard for him to come to today. And I think his kids might have been with him, so he had said to me he might not make it, and I can understand why. So I'm representing the 2 of them, and like I said, we're here, so we would like the road. We hope that you guys do it for not only for the town, for the kids. I do have a grandson that may be going to school here, so it'd be nice to have the school bus and not have to drive him or wherever. Mailboxes are on Cherry Valley, so we don't even have to worry about mailboxes. That's all something they won't even be moved. We go down there and take care of that.
All right.
Any questions?
None.
Just
No.
Richard, do you want to say anything? Yeah. Oh, backed away. Thank you.
Thank
All right. Anybody else want to speak on any of these roads? So your opinion, Scott Laurel's good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
And the chip seal will be done next year. You're holding
Yeah,
on
we'll
the
put it right
escrow.
in with the same. I've asked the folks there that put the proposal together for us to refresh it going forward. So we have that in queue. So it'll be taken care of in next year when we do
The
the other.
price goes up. What do you do?
Well, if the price goes up, then, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge. I mean, I don't, right now, I'm not sure exactly what is in the kitty, so to speak. I don't know if you have that in any of your documentation as to what it is.
Didn't see.
I
it.
didn't
believe
see
it
in
was
there.
I believe it was 19,000. I thought I saw 19,000 in there. somewhere.
19.
I believe it was 19.
Yeah, I believe, I didn't bring the paperwork with me as to what the original quote was. I mean, as we all know, asphalt rubber chip seal went from $4.59 or whatever, all the way up to $5.05 or $5.19. So it did make quite a jump there as far as the increase goes, but hope and pray that it continues to come back down. Things will probably be very much decided after tomorrow.
Do we do these separate?
Yeah, well, you would want.
We will be
to vote
doing
on
them
Yeah,
separate.
yeah.
Will we do them separate? Yeah, okay. All right. All right. On that, is there any other public input? All right, I'll close the public input and. Okay. Discussion on this now, gentlemen?
Only discussion I'd have is just that in case the cost goes any higher, that the applicants would have to make up the difference of what was proposed this year to last year. So that you can help it because of what our pavement costs went up this year. I have no problem with that as long as there's money in earnest right now in escrow to pay for that chip seal because they agreed to it. But in case the cost goes astronomically
Yep.
high again, they would have to make up the difference in that escrow.
So we should put that in a condition as far as, okay. So are we comfortable making a motion on Laurel Lane at this point?
I think so.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to accept Laurel Lane as a town road with the condition of the chip seal, if it's much higher, to make up the difference for the cost of the chip seal itself.
That the applicants.
If the applicants would have to help pitch in, pay for.
Just a suggestion, I don't mean, for the wording of the warrant article, they say if the price exceeds what's currently in escrow,
Yeah.
that the
Okay.
difference will be made up.
Okay.
In that way, just.
If the chip seal exceeds what the current price is for this season, for this year.
Current escrow. I'm sorry,
Escrow.
escrow, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's the board's thoughts on Hopewell
Yep,
and
Yep.
Brookyard Cove.
on Hopewell.
We have two issues there. You have the stone wall and the tree cutting.
I think they said they're gonna take care of the tree cutting already. They already had a contract for the tree cutting.
Yeah, but we have to, that has to be part of. the-
Right, part of the motion,
Part of
if the
design.
motion is into it.
And the stone wall, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Chairman, should be eliminated from town right away. I don't think we'd allow that to be built today like that, even with a variance. This is in the town, right away. Definitely,
Oh, they definitely have to come before the board, zoning board, definitely.
the second wall.
I feel as though
Belongs there.
either they
Plow
get.
trucks hits that, we can do a lot of damage to it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me.
Chairman, I make a motion to accept Hopewell Lane upon the conditions that all structures be removed out of the town's right of way. And that waivers are signed, that we are not responsible for ornamental trees and that the trimming shall be done in accordance for our acceptance of the road. I think that should satisfy, I think, Ryan.
Yes, yeah.
I'll say.
Second by Bob, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Do you have a business card on you before you leave?
Brickyard, do we have, is Brickyard separate from that? or is
Brickyard
that-
is just referring from a class 6 road to a class 5 road because we'll be expending funds on. Is that correct, Ryan?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Brickyard, we'd have to reclassify that to a class 5 road, or did we do that before in our last meeting? Because
Oh,
right
we-
now it's a class 6, is that correct?
Right, we would be taking it over as the same class as Hopewell. And.
So that all kind of coincides with each other?
Well,
Yes, it's all becoming one road as Hopewell. The two are being taken over as Hopewell.
There shouldn't have been a motion to vote it in as making Brickyard Hopewell Road from the town road, Roberts Cove Road, all the way in, because right now that portion is the class 6, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Right, the first part coming in.
So
yeah,
we
and
need to
it veers
take it
off,
out.
But we're only talking about the first part in as it connects to Hopewell.
Right.
All of that becoming a public
So
road.
we should make that as part of the motion because we really didn't. We just only said Hopewell.
Right.
We've never established Hopewell all the way out to the town road.
Right. Yeah, Hopewell and
So we
Brickyard.
can add that to the motion.
Yes, we can just make another motion. We don't have to add it to it.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to change the name of Brickyard Road to Hopewell Road to the private section that we just took over as the town road.
Okay.
What's that?
I know you're gonna talk about 9/11, aren't you?
Yes, you're gonna want to make sure that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Upon approval of 911.
On approval, 911.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll get directly in touch with you about, the rest of the stuff, and we'll get Stephen into the loop as well, and do what we have to do that. And I'll email you with my contact information too. I don't have a business card on me. They're in my office, but thank you.
Thank you.
Start off with
All right, new business,
public input.
public input, I'm sorry. We just had some.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was reminding you.
Isn't that just
Anybody from the public like to speak on agenda items? No?
Okay.
All right, new business, Water Department request for use of ARPA funds.
Hello, now that you're all warmed up for me. Right. So I'm here to request the consideration for using ARPA money to update our meter reading program and software. I don't know, I know Mr. Wentworth has a history with the water department's meter reading, but we are still currently walking home to home and writing down the meter reads on a piece of paper. The problem that we're having right now is the problem that I think everybody has with shipping and manufacturing. When we first reached out to Stiles Company and started buying their Badger meters, the meters we were purchasing were the latest meters to start moving into the phase of the drive-by units. So we're not walking up to houses. Basically, it would take our meter reading and our resources to two technicians a week to read meters, depending on the weather, and cut that to hours. The problem we're having right now is the meters are being hard. They're hard to get. The ones we're currently purchasing. They have plenty of other meters that can go with most up-to-date meter reading equipment, such as the drive-by endpoints. But our meter reading equipment does not read the 6 digits that the new meters read. So what I'm looking to do, I've been working with Stiles since 2015 anyway, for the meter reading. I reached out to them in 2021 and they provided a quote for me, and I can't put my finger on why we didn't move forward with it. I think it was right around when the Board of Selectmen took over and we just kind of put that on the back burner. So I reapproached them based on their proposal, and their proposal was approximately $14,000 for the startup fees. That was the radio reading equipment. I worked with them hand in hand, trying to come up with a solution that was going to be most feasible for the town of Alton. Most places, when they decide to do a meter upgrade program, they say, okay, we have 425 homes with meters and 72 flat rates. They would take those, build a price that would support the meter reading equipment, the meters themselves, the device that reads to the meter reading equipment, and the installation. That's usually around $600,000. So I talked with them and we came up with a solution. This year alone, we have done 273 work orders in-house. We've been really working on our on our metering appointments. COVID kind of slowed us down. So we were, once we got our third technician, it was go time to start getting into houses. So what we're looking to do is just start phasing into the radio upgrade. The meters we have right now that we've been installing support the equipment. So what I'm looking to do is to buy the software and the radios that go to the 97 meters that we've currently installed that would go on the radio, on the meters themselves with the radio device, and then get 30 more meters and radio devices. And that, so they knocked off $4,000 for us, $4,500 off of the startup cost, and provided us with a price of $28,473.08. So what that would do is would get us started in a phase program to start changing these over. In the first phase, obviously, we're going to have some routes that people are going to walk up to and collect the reads. And then we're going to have whatever endpoints that we've installed be picked up by the new software and the radio read equipment. And as we do that in-house, instead of having it be a $600,000 cost, do it in-house and over the course of 3 or 4 years, implement all of the meters into that radio read program. But, we're at the mercy of what we can get right now. And fortunately, when I first did this memo, I was able to, after I did it, I didn't get a seat at the table. We were able to get 10 more meters. So they're just hard to come by. So I've provided in the memo some references of different utilities, larger or, close to our size, that have used Styles Company for, the total change out. They've actually gone in and, created all the appointments and done the overall meter upgrade program. There's a breakdown in the memo of what each cost associated will be.
Yes, absolutely. By all means.
How many phases do you think there'll be involved?
Well, it depends on how fast we go and how quick we can get this, the equipment. So, my hope is just to start this phase with the 97, because those are the work orders that we know have already been changed to the new meters. And you simply just go in the house and put this radio device on the existing meter. And then, the 30 extra would be just, we'd make appointments. It's hard to put a time on it because a lot of people get a little nervous when you want to get in their house and change their meter out. Problem is one of the meters we changed out today was 59 years old. It was 1963. So, this is not something that I just came up with that we need to do. There's a need for it. We've got meters from, 2022 to 1959.
The software have to be updated?
So the estimated annual fee is $1,441.20. That's worked into it because they didn't want us to be blindsided by anything that came up afterwards. It comes with training. And anything that, I don't believe there's any software updates because it basically works off of that radio. So I don't believe there's any need for that. I can definitely find out. But they do give us technical support and 2 certified trainers to assist with everything. They've been great. I was just talking to them on my phone before I sat up here with you. They just landed in Milwaukee and said they were here for any questions that we might have. So they were willing to come out, but I didn't want to bother with them with it.
Is this the only meter company?
It is not the only meter company, but it is, we went with Badger and started purchasing those. So if we were to go get a different radio, that's different software, and trying to keep everything consistent, since we started buying these newer style meters with Badger.
In your last paragraph, you stated, when this phase is complete, there will be approximately 260 more meters and radios needed to complete this project. So you're talking an overall at this price right now, a total of $65,566 more dollars is going to do to finish this project.
Yep.
Will every house that's supposed to have a meter in it?
Every house that can have a meter in it will have a meter in it. Some of the houses have not been plumbed for that, and that's a decision that we need to make, whether we're going to pay for a plumber or that's on the homeowner.
Are there many?
There's 72 flat rate. So they're
Which is kind of unfair to the other water users that pay by a meter system, because you really don't know how much flow is going into their homes.
Yep.
The reason we did not do it when the Board of Selectmen took over, because the Board of Selectmen was not sure, nor was the past water commissioners, just how much money they had. We didn't know how much money they had until the Board of Selectmen took it over and found those and they weren't lost revenues. They were just revenues sitting in the general fund. And it wasn't that we were against it. It's just at the time, it was not financial feasible. It wasn't feasible for us. This is a way to go. I mean, there's still, I know a city out in Missouri that I have buildings at, a commercial building. They still go out and read the meters every month because they bill by the month.
Yeah.
But they read it by hand.
Yeah.
They do not do it electronically. The gas meter, same way. They do not do it electronically. They still do it the old fashioned way, which I don't believe in technology 100% on radios. So,
well, these are smart meters too. So if we have, once you get that tablet, say you call me and say, I got a high bill. I don't know what's going on. Nothing. I have no leaky toilets. We get it all the time. I can go in there and download that meter head and tell you at 10, 11, 12, and 3 a.m. you were using 5 gallons a minute. So kind of takes the guesswork right out of it.
okay. Secondly is what keeps this thing going? I mean, on a phone, you got to plug it in and charge it, right? What keeps that transmitter going from that meter to your phone?
See, these are all battery operated. So when I used to work with the R900 Neptune radios, they had a lifespan of 10 to 20 years,
Okay,
depending.
that's what I need to know.
They come with a lot number. So that's specifically important when we start moving into, getting all that information into BMSI, they'll all have a lot number. So they're going to come in a box of like, say 10, there's going to be a serial number and then a radio number. And then the box is going to have a lot number. If you start to see, and Neptune was very good about it when I worked with them, 5 radios that start dying before their life expectancy, usually they're very good about replacing them.
So this project's gonna be over 3-5 years?
Yeah, just to keep the cost down.
yeah.
I mean, we could, you can spend $600,000 to do it and get it done, in a month, but
No, I didn't know what you thought, how long. So I guess if we just spent,
Well, and furthermore, for that being said, the ARPA money was designed for water and wastewater.
Yeah.
That's what it was designed for. It's not money that the taxpayers have to pay. It's,
the biggest thing that I take from it is that, meters, we tell customers all the time, meters don't speed up when they start to, lose their life expectancy. You start to lose the 3 gallon a minute flows, and 3 gallons a minute over the course of 3 months to you is if you're losing it, no big deal. But when I'm pumping it and putting it out to the system, that's a cost for us. So the biggest thing is that without a good meter system, we're not going to be eligible for some grants or loans, because we can't conduct a water loss survey, because we can't really give a good representation of what we're doing. I mean, they're metered, they're great, they're catching some of it, but those little flows is where you start to lose, the drips and the sinks and things like that. And the 5/8 by 3/4 meters, they're designed for those lower flows. That's why they have a 5/8 meter, not a 1-inch meter in their house. So that's where we lose as a utility, and that's how we run. So
Are you saying that it's going to take a 12 to 15 year period?
I hope not. No, I mean,
At 30 meters a year, it's 12 years.
well,
And
30,
and
30,
and that's $28,473 that you have to provide in revenues to pay for this.
Yep.
If you don't have the opera funds around anymore, which taxpayers do pay for one way or another. But that money's not always going to be around.
sure.
So I have no problem with this.
Yep.
If I can see a plan. I'm not seeing a plan. I'm just seeing just the startup
Yeah,
of
and-
the 30 this year, but I'm not seeing anything for second, third, fourth year or revenue stream of how we might pay for it down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now that I can't give you an exact because I'm at the mercy of homeowners letting me in their homes. I have people, you know, I could point out 50 people right off the top of my head that we've approached and we can't get in their house.
Is there
On
a
top of
statute that helps us get in these houses? This is town water that's going in. that
Sure, we
shouldn't
can
be
threaten to
needed.
shut them off.
Shut it off.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
They can be discontinued. That's really what it comes down to. There's not a statute that's going to let you go in the house because then you have search and seizure issues, things like that in somebody's curtilage. But at the same time, like you said, that we have statutory power to shut the services off until they comply with our policies, repairs, maintenance, anything like that. Right.
Only thing I can tell you is that, I mean, I'm at the mercy of what the system needs outside the meter program. And we just got our leak detection survey back that said that we have no leaks in the system. Now, I mean, you got some small ones that we probably got missed in the leak detection. But I guess what I'm getting at is that I know you don't operate off of good faith, but the good faith is there that we're going to try to make this work, but we also have to maintain the system, or it's $600,000 and I can guarantee in 2 months you'll have it done.
All I'm saying is to me, as a business plan, which
Yep.
this should be established on, is what the business plan is. 12 years, 5 years, revenue streams. Where are you going to pull from your revenues that you pull in every year to put away $28,473 besides just the well we just paid off? Because that's basically almost just about what that well loan payment.
I think
was.
once those meters start reading correctly, we'll probably start getting more revenue out of them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my water bill is run consistent in my 3 buildings downtown for pretty much 5 years. So I don't believe my meters are off that much if they're staying consistent all the time. I'd have no problem going this. But as a business plan, which this is, it's an enterprise fund raised by water users. I would just like to see a business plan for what it's going to be 5 years, 7 years, what it's going to do to the rate increase if you're not getting the revenues.
Well, the rates are going to have to get looked at, obviously, at some point. I mean, they should be looked at every year. I cannot look at the rates accurately without meters.
Well,
I can't.
the water department has run fairly good for the last 5 years. Since we found out where all that extra money was running, watched our spending, did our repairs. You've been there. But you can still have to come up with some sort of a plan. And this is just saying, I'm going to do 30 this year, but I don't know if I can do it next year because I don't know if I'm going to have the money. Rates do have to go up. I understand that. Costs go up. But give me a plan. You can't go to the bank, just say, well, I want 28,000 this year, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for it next year when I want that same 28. I got to have some idea because the taxpayers aren't paying this bill. The water users are.
But can't we take it out of our capital reserve for main and service?
Keep hitting
expense?
capital reserve for that and that. You're not going to have any left when a main goes down.
Well, then we got $250,000 worth of APA funds.
For right now, but not later down the road. What are you going to do when that dries up? ARPA's not going to be around forever. That ARPA's only around because of COVID and everything else with what our federal government's done. All I'm asking for is a simple plan. And that shouldn't be that hard to put down on paper.
No,
Forecast
when-
out. We do
Well, I
it with
mean, I
capital
wasn't-
improvements every year.
I wasn't prepared to give a business plan today, but I mean, if you're looking at guaranteed, I can do 30 a year, absolutely.
I can't guarantee it. You tell me what your revenue streams you feel are going to be and where you can save money to put away in the capital reserve to put this in there.
We piss away $300,000 on nothing and we're going to argue over $26,000 to fix the water.
Well, sir, as a business owner in this town.
I know,
business owner
Ruben,
for
I know.
30
I
years.
hear it all the time. You're a business.
Right,
owner.
you hear it all the time, 30 years, and I've done very well. Okay, and I
these-
work for my money every day.
I don't. I just sit around and do nothing. all
I didn't
day.
say you sat around, sir, but I also had to provide business plans to banks.
Chairman,
You
let's
don't.
get back to the
Yeah,
issue.
no, you're right.
So do you
The
think
water
that's gonna-
meters are the heart of the water department. No matter what we say or think here tonight. We have no idea of water loss in this town. We never have. You can tell how much we pump. Can't tell how much goes into the people's houses that gets billed. We can't do that. And we have to. You have to know that. You can plan anything you want, but if you don't know where this water's going, what good is it? So the meter program, I fought for this for years. I went to a few water meetings back in the old days. But I don't know. I believe we have to address this issue. It should have been addressed before. We have quite a few houses in town without water meters. How many are there now?
72. And that doesn't include the summer lines. The summer lines have a master meter.
But we do have a meter program, Bob. And you're right, the 72, they need to be metered. It's not fair to the other users that are being paid by meter.
All our users should have meters.
I have no problem with that. Summer users, you're not gonna, I don't believe you're gonna get summer users on the meter. Is that correct?
No,
No, I've been changing out quite a bit of them when they do any changes to the inside of their house.
Okay,
Require-
do you start billing them as a meter customer then, or you do still flat rate?
No, they get metered.
And how many summer users now?
uh,
That's all right. You can get back to me on that.
270,
You can
I
get
think.
back to me on that.
170, I think.
well,
So do you anticipate the amount for phase one as it continues through the years to upgrade and change, that it's gonna stay 28,000? It's gonna increase yearly, I'm sure.
I mean, it's brass. So, I
That amount's gonna increase.
mean, the cost of a meter changes every time, you know, brass goes
So I'm
up.
saying that, so that's the amount that's gonna be this year.
Yeah,
Do we have an idea what it might be next year? Or
We
the year
get-
after? What
we
the
get a
increase-
printout
What
from all
the
the-
average increase will be each year?
don't, because the
5%, 2%?
we get a printout of what, you know, the meter and the radio head cost. They're billed separately.
Mhm.
So the register is one cost and the meter is another part cost. And, you know, I haven't seen them go up more than, you know, $5 a year. But we do at the beginning of every year get a new printout for our normal
Mhm.
brass parts that we use.
Yeah, I think you're at the mercy of, when it comes to that, is what the market's doing as far as the brass is the most.
well,
But I mean, I think what you're finding is that, you know, the meters are hard to come by right now because everybody's getting infrastructure money and working on their infrastructure. So I mean, if they're not producing them and everybody's grabbing them, there's a supply and demand issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Question.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
your summer water system, basically, there's
2 meters,
you have
master meters. Yep.
the two master meters.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you can determine what our summer water usage
Yes.
is.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yep. Yeah, there's a 4-inch and a 6-inch meter.
So if we get all the houses, all the other users hooked up to water meters, which is something, it's gotta get done.
No, it does.
Huh? Yeah, and then we'll have a handle on our pumpage and what we're billing.
No, and this is something that I don't know. Can we, like we just said, can we go into people's houses that don't have meters and
Enforce them to put them in.
force them to put meters in?
No, Ryan just said we can't.
Yeah, I know.
Just shut the
The only
water
way
off.
you can do, your leverage is to shut that water off. Which I mean, most people, if you tell them you're gonna shut that water off, most of them don't have wells to back that up. They're gonna need to make a choice. They're either gonna.
No, but what she was saying was that some of the people don't have the plumbing to accept it.
But that's another thing that you do, I mean, as part of that transformation is they are, you know, we should shut off their water until they comply.
I guess I don't understand why you wouldn't have the plumbing to accept a meter. I
So
don't-
basically, if like the water line comes into the house and branches off immediately to head to the upstairs bathroom or whatever, you have to have, you know, say 13 inches of free space before it branches off to go on, or there's other things that are unmetered, basically.
Can you make that meter, radio meter in a box outside within the town's right of way down there? Because it's
So-
all electronic. Your meter's down below the frost line.
So they make meter pits and the cost right now, just to buy a meter pit is about $3,500. Then you got to do the excavation for it on somebody's property, install it. And then the only other issue you might see with that is now, and this isn't our issue if they're not allowing us to get in the house or whatever, basically their leaks could start from the, you know, the effluent side of the meter into the house, wherever that might be. So it could be, you know, if you have a service leak in your yard, now you're getting billed for that, basically.
But aren't they responsible from the curb stop in anyways?
But if it's not metered, it's just a loss. So if you put a meter pit in, the meter's now spinning. Even though they're responsible for fixing it from the curb box in, it's now metered.
Well,
I
I guess
mean,
that's
it's-
one way to approach it with.
Yeah, that,
Put a meter box in the yard and it's meter here, but if you get a leak, you're gonna get charged from the water that goes in. If not, let us in your house and put a meter in.
The only problem with that is what she's saying, if you call that out and somebody says, fine, go put a meter box in, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Somebody's gonna pay for it.
$3,500 for a meter box, it's gonna be pretty costly on the town.
Well, I understand it, but what are you gonna do?
I mean, my recommendation would be that we look into, I could talk to Whitley a little further about it, but that we would, you know, if the board was in favor of it, is the people that aren't metered, would we send a notice out telling them that they aren't metered, they have X amount of days or months
Make it
to
a point to
comply. If not, their services are gonna be shut off until they come into compliance.
Because I want to say, when the Board of Selectmen took that meter program over, that's how many there was then, nothing has changed in those years. Sure. So something needs to change. Either a letter from the lawyer saying we're requesting an appointment, set up a meter in here, or if the town will shut your water off.
Right. But, and just as, if I may, for the board, you know, Courtney and I had talked about this, and I apologize, and it's kind of preface this a little bit before we started with the presentation, but we had talked a few times since this was initially brought up as a proposal. And really the way that we were looking at it, and I was looking at it, was the fact that the ARPA funding for that would be a good way to jumpstart the program. As she'd stated earlier, they've already started utilizing these meters as neat as they could replace meters. We're already into the system. This would give us a jump start to get a bunch more meters in forward progression. Now, what we will have for funding, I know that we can, you know, she can put a proposal together and, you know, propose what she believes is going to be revenue streams, but that's not all going to be exact. Mainly, we were looking at it from a point of getting the board behind a consolidated proposal so that we could jump it off the ground with the funding that we do have available right now, and then come back at budget season through conversations during the budget process to be able to sustain a regular flow to keep this progress moving. But as we're into the program, more revenues present themselves or more money opportunities present themselves that we could put more money towards additional meters to cut down the length of time it's going to take to get the proposal. I mean, the end goal obviously is to get this implemented as quickly as possible. It's just, you know, trying to allocate that kind of money all at once is just tough to do with a system like that. But that's really, I was just trying to clarify the intent behind that is you know, bringing this forward was to get the program up off the ground, get it up and running and get some forward momentum on that. And, you know, like I said, sustain a certain number of a realistic goal every year, but also with the intention to get a lot more ambitious as funding becomes available to get the program moving. And I'm all for, if the board is in favor of it, I'll call town council tomorrow and I'll find out about what we can do legal wise to notice the people that we need to as far as metering homes and getting that done and getting that taken care of. The only one thing behind that too is also we need to make sure that we have the supplies available to make sure that we do that. I don't know if we have that many meters right now.
So we have 10 of the ones, the old ones, but I haven't gotten any more for any, you know, word that they can get any more. They sent me what they had.
So we still on notice with them that if they have any that come in that they do come in. So that would also give us a little more time for the users at that point in time to give them more time to come into compliance while we're waiting on meters.
But while we're doing something like this, we also have to maintain the ones that are currently in there that stop reading. You got the frozen meters, you got the mice choose the radios, the homeowner that wants to put a deck on his house or new siding and rips a radio off. You got all these things that come into play. It's not just, you know, we just put the meat and everything's hunky dory. You know, we have people constantly having meters stop reading. So.
No, I think it's a good idea. It's a good plan. I think to get a phase going. I think we definitely should get in touch with council, legal counsel, and as far as notifications for water users to get these meters changed. I think it's a good idea. I can see where it's difficult to project this. A plan, a full-size plan. I agree with Ruben, what he's thinking and what he's saying, but it's a little difficult to go through and to project what it's going to be in 6 to 12 years if it goes that long.
Right. I get 4 meter appointments tomorrow, but if something in the system happens that needs our attention, then all hands are on deck for that. So when we make appointments, we try very hard to send, somebody to go take care of those, but it's just, it's one of those things that you may only get 2 a day. And that's kind of
It's going to take time.
what we're getting at.
How do we want to proceed?
So do you want a motion to approve the expenditures of the ARPA funds? Phase 1 upgrade project as presented. 28,473.08.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Highway Department 2023 paving bid package approval. $8,800 tons next year, huh?
That was good, doesn't it? We'll see how the warrant article goes, I guess.
Wow. That's a lot.
The idea is to take your road construction money and put it into road preservation. So that goes towards basically asphalt in the large majority. So asphalt, rubber chip sealing, crack sealing, those things will preserve the pavement, extend the life cycle of the pavement. So my understanding was from the board that, we were in a multi-year contract, which is coming up. And it was the wishes of the board to put this back out publicly for a bid. So I have been approached by the owner of GMI, who's currently our vendor, that would like to negotiate a contract. Just so I be transparent with the board, whether or not you wish to do that, or you'd like to go back out to public bid. So that being said, I put together a package here for that purpose.
Nice job on that too.
What's that?
It's a nice job on that too.
Very good.
There was some cutting and
Yeah,
pasting going on.
yeah, that looks like cut and paste it.
I've
used it
say,
before.
I think this is the thickest contract.
It
RFP.
is. What he's saying.
But I have to go back and.
Goes back to $1 million.
I'm gonna throw
So
my 2 cents worth in here again. The roads you got listed, those are the roads you want to redo next year for repaving.
yes,
Okay. So this is long before you were here. or some of these gentlemen even are sitting here or in town. The town taxpayers have sold a bill of goods about 15 years ago. No, going to road reconstruction. If we start paving because gravel was costing so much, you lose so much gravel every year for cars going up and down it. If I put down on a road reconstruction plan, I'll only have maybe 10% gravel roads left in 15 years. That hasn't happened. I'm looking at 11D being done third time in 20 years, 17 years, being repaved or reground. Coffin Brook, same thing. Well, I see other roads that are gravel, which when we just resurveyed, one was Lily Pond Road. We just resurveyed it because the folks up there were asking about it, wanted to know where our lines were. With no mention of this 2 years later of doing that. And that was before you came. All I'm saying is I'm looking at a road that I live on. That was Pug Mill back in 1989.
Yeah, that
It's
was
held up. It's held up to a point. Of course, we don't go down fast on it. We get a few coal patches here and there, but nothing ever gets extended from that road up the road. Because every time there's a heavy rain, there's 2 hills that wash out. The neighbors have to call to say, my road's washed out. Can you come up and fix it? The highway department has never done on that road. They maintained it and they maintained it well when it washed up. We've never done to try to improve the enhancement of it so we don't keep getting the washouts. Lily Pond Road or any of the gravel roads, I don't see any enhancement where we're told 15 years ago that we're getting. So all I'm saying is I don't see any new roads added to this to say, what are we going to do for road reconstruction?
No. And the reason why you won't get that from me until we're at a stage where we've maintained our current asphalt conditions out there so that the life cycle of the asphalt roads, because if you don't take the asphalt roads actually do cost you as much, if not more. Now, granted, gravel roads on the long term do cost you as much, if not more at times, depending on what their use of the road actually is. So it used to be that, and the only good part about gravel roads is just like when you end up having a rain situation, you have to go up there and fix it and repair it. Generally, you can pull the gravel back out, just wash down the road and pull it back up into the road and re-ditch it and put it back together, and then you're back underway. Versus paving a road, not taking care of the ditches, not doing drainage and those types of things, and you run into the risk of having the road itself get washed out and undermined and then have some substantial costs in it that way. There's no doubt. I mean, I would love to be able to take some of your gravel roads, for an example, and pave them. You know, I take a look at, potentially, once again, you have to make an assessment based upon the road itself and what types of build out it actually has and what types of travel it has. Now, as an example, your road, Selectman Wentworth, is certainly has now endured some additional subdivision activity on that road, which has broken up a couple lots, which may be more build out that may occur on that road. So that may, in fact, move it up on the food chain versus a road like Stockbridge Corner Road on the west side, the Dudley side. That road right there, ideally, I would love to pave that road. And it could be done relatively easy, and the drainage could be maintained without having to do a lot of additional drainage other than dealing with a ledge on it in certain sections. But, I mean, those are the types of things that would be ideal to do. If in fact we were to do the traffic counts and look at the traffic counts, for an example, on Prospect Mountain Road, I would love to pave that road. The people up there probably would not like the traffic any more than they like it now when it's gravel that way, because it would not be calm. It would be even more horrendous than what it is now. But once again, you have to weigh those out. And I realize that, ideally, when I went to New Durham, they said the same thing. They wanted to, eventually eliminate those roads. If you're going to take a gravel road, in order to actually do it and do it right and put pavement onto it, it should be reconstructed to the point where you actually box it out and reconstruct it. $1.3 million now to do a mile of road. It used to be $1 million. Now it's, another $300,000 more to do it. So where do you put your money? When you have a road budget that's $1.1 million, you got to put it into taking care of what you already currently have on the ground, what's currently is paved, and continue to keep it well. 11D used to be a state highway, and, it certainly was constructed very well during that time period and that era. In this proposal here, it is to, do a one shot. across that to basically get the surface back trued up so that it actually sheds water and does better that way versus falling into the cracks and those types of things there and some of the wear areas. But, you know, you take a tail end of that road like Wallstead Road. So that's when you take the opportunity to deal with that road. Right now, in some ways, that road should be scarified up and turned right back into gravel as it services like 3 homes on the end of that road. It's not very many homes on there. But if you're going to be right in the neighborhood and it's already paved, let's not return it to gravel. Let's just go ahead and pave it and take care of it. Same thing with Rogers Street to a certain example. Some of that road there, if in fact you don't take care of it now, it's going to go beyond and you're going to end up paying the money for reclaim. Coffin Brook Road is not that bad. I believe we can actually get away with actually just shimming some of those spots that have delaminated in that road there and then use asphalt rubber chip seal. For an example, same thing with Hamwoods Road in Stockbridge Corner. Those are basically taken across there and just actually shimming them and truing them back up because they've gotten rutted over the years. So it's basically a preservation side of things versus going in and doing a full shim and overlay type of application that actually is there. These, once again, you know, these tonnages just give people a rough idea. You know, I'm saying that even though these tonnages come out with on the high side at 8,800 tons, I'm saying that it's probably going to be, I would look at it to be closer to 6,000. So when they look at this, they say, you know, when they have to make an estimate, they base it on what they're going to put out for tonnage in order to give you the best price. Once again, there's always that disclaimer in here that's all subject to based upon what money funds are available by the town in doing that. Most asphalt people now, they set a base price and then they work off the asphalt escalator for the state of New Hampshire, which all in all is a fair way to do it.
Right.
You know, it's pretty tough. It would be pretty tough in this market if you didn't have that clause within your contract. Somebody would have lost their shirt nowadays. The real competitors are in this market, in my opinion. They're not the small, you know, contractors. They are the people that actually manufacture the asphalt. So there'll be the GMIs, there'll be the Pikes, there'll be the R&Ds that actually have their own plant, or the Continentals that have their own plant and manufacture their own product.
And but they're all at the mercy of the liquid.
The liquid. Yeah, liquid and aggregate.
Correct.
That ends up going into it. So, I mean, this is a pretty, you know, I mean, it's a pretty, as Ruben said, it's a pretty long document, but it's a typical contract. Just to, if you can get somebody in the door and you're gonna start them out, let's know what the game rules are. And because if in fact we have somebody that we've never worked with before, at least have this as a legal document to back us up.
Oh, I kind of think it's time that we actually have some rules.
I have no complaints about the packet. I'm just saying, it's the most full and depth one I've seen yet. 17 years.
Once again, I'm, you know, certainly we've had a good paving season this year. My first time, you know, managing that fully, with the exception of dealing with, you know, we did Church and School Street, which was pretty cut and dry last year that way. But the relationship has been fine, and we've worked well together that way, and have had good checks and balances through the process. So, but I'd like to do this sooner than later in the season so that we basically get this kind of locked down by the first of the year. And even though we may not have an approved budget or anything of that nature, at least we have something that we can work from when we go into because we're going to hit the ground running come spring. We've got a lot of projects that, you know, are kind of in the pipeline here, and we want to try to stay ahead of the game.
What's the wishes of the board? Do we want to put this out to bid or?
Mr. Chairman, I make motion to put out the 2023 paving bid project as presented by the Public Works Department.
Second?
A second.
Discussion? No, it's discussion.
The only thing is, do we want to add the dates?
3 year, states a 3 year.
Oh, yeah, 3-year. Yeah, that probably.
States that right in the contract anyways, in the bid specs.
Okay,
As presented.
as presented, yep. All right, I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next, we have West Side bathrooms.
So I just wanted to throw this out for some thoughts. The bathrooms, you give a great luxury to the residents and or guests of this community, more so than a lot of other communities. And with that comes another set of a burden of things. So, and the only reason why I say that is I'm the one that gets the emails about the conditions that unfortunately some folks don't respect our restrooms as much as the ones that really do appreciate them. And which is unfortunate. Sometimes they're vandalized, sometimes they have graffiti, sometimes they just have, unfortunately, people make a mess and we have to, our staff has to endure that. So in light of trying to reduce some of that impact a little bit, because it seems like it doesn't make a difference sometimes. Sometimes we can go long periods in the summertime. We don't have some of the same impacts that we have in the off season. Like for an example, 2 weekends ago, I think it was 2 weekends or 3 weekends ago, we had somebody that went in and, they took all the toilet paper and they ripped them all out of the holders that we had and stuffed them all into the toilets and plugged them all up. And, the staff had to come in and basically shovel that all out and clean that. So when we spend more time dealing with those types of things, then we're not spending more time taking care of our own town facilities, such as like the town hall, for an example, because it takes time away from that. We have to shift that around. We basically have one person that's assigned to the custodial functions for the entire town, for all town buildings. So with the exception of the fire department, they're gracious enough to do a lot of their own housekeeping. We help them if we can. But, so in that situation there and trying to afford more time for the ability to spend more time in other locations is in the wintertime with tracking in and all that, the town hall takes a pretty good beating on that. And we end up having to spend more time here. So the idea was in talking with the custodial staff was potentially being able to try to shift if we didn't have to clean the bathrooms and the bathrooms weren't open on a daily basis down there, that we could spend more time in doing our cleaning in our own facilities, PD, library and town hall, and then our senior centers, being able to do that because it endures more time because of the winter cleanup that ends up happening. And then just run the restrooms either on a weekend basis, special events, those type of activities down there. So we talked about it. I said I would pitch the ball out to the board, see how the board felt about it. That way, we are working on trying to get devices, as I've talked about in the past, as far as being able to lock those at certain times. The PD does a great job majority of the time, although things happen as we've explained that way. So I just throw it out for discussion. I wasn't part of the whole development plan of when the restrooms came in. A lot of towns don't have that. They have porta potties and that's it. And another company cleans them, of course, which comes with a fee. So I throw that out just for, consideration to the board. That way, whichever way the will of the board is, and certainly we'll continue to march on, but we've added we're making changes here in the town hall. That will add, additional time to be spent here at the town hall, also trying to do some additional cleaning to make sure that we have a good spot for everybody to come.
Well, during COVID, we closed them. Remember, right? But we did put in porta potties. How many did we put in?
And during the summertime, I think at one point we had 4. I think it was 2 regular and 2 handicap. It was 4.
And then 2 on the other by the east side.
I said,
You see, in the winter, we have a lot of fishermen
Well, this is where I
have
was.
the aircraft. If you have a good winter, they're flying in and out of this place all winter long. You know, last winter they did too much, but
2 weeks.
yeah.
But on what you're saying is in the wintertime, yes, we have a lot of activity in the bay, not just on the ice. A lot of people come in and view and park, and they're watching the activity. Even if they're not involved and they're using the restrooms, and the restaurants get filled and so on and so forth. So having the restrooms for at least a portion. I'm looking at the dates you have here, that you were thinking of closing them on the west side from December 1st to April 1st. Instead of something like that, because of the activity increases middle December to later December to March or March 1st. And that's usually when everyone has to get off the, not March 1st, April 1st, I'm sorry. Is usually when everybody has to get off the ice anyway. That's what the state mandates, all ice fishing ceases. And so I'm thinking of, in terms of that, possibly if you were to close anything, would be mid-December, mid-November to mid-December, talking about a month. And yeah, but the activity that goes on in the bay is way too busy to have those restrooms shut down. The only time that I would suggest, if you were to shut it down at any time, would be midweek.
Yeah, that
When it's
was,
the least active, when some of the restaurants are closed and not activated, and you still have ice fishermen going out, you still have cross-country skiers, you still have snowmobilers, but there's not as much activity on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. That's, but
so I'm not being unsympathetic to the restaurants and everything. Business is great and we should always support our businesses type of thing there, but they should also support the bathrooms and take care of their bathrooms. I know they don't want to have patrons come from outside. They come in and use their facilities unless they're patronizing their business, which I completely understand that way. And I'm all about figuring out what works the best here. There's no doubt our workload in some ways is more directed at the town buildings during the week. And the weekends, for an example, if in fact we were to have the restrooms open in the bay, for an example, whether it be Thursday to Sunday type of situation or something like that. Certainly that makes it maybe a little bit easier to manage. We could, look at some, the staffing, making some shifts there. That way, as it is, our custodial staff comes in for a few hours and does those spot hits and cleans. That way it doesn't do full, regular shift, 8 hours or 10 hours they do on certain days during the week, but not during the weekend. So potentially that may be something there, if that might be something that it would certainly help out with during the week, so we could devote some additional time to during the week to our facilities that way. And try to work it that way. So I just throw it out when I know when I'm out plowing, and generally I've been tasked with doing a lot of the plowing in the bay, and where I see the activity is, if we have a storm, certainly is on, and when the ice fishermen are out there and everything is, there's no doubt there's the diehard people that are there during the week, but the weekends certainly seem to be that much more busy. And when I could certainly understand that if you were going to close them, you would most likely have to look at potentially, you would want to look at having potentially a chemical toilet or something like that, just as a backup. Now, Fish and Game is running, I think, 3 or 4 chemical toilets at the Fish and Game location over there. I don't know if they'll continue to do so throughout the winter or not.
Sure.
But I haven't heard.
my understanding is that by the sounds of the email correspondence I have with them, because we talked about the Porta Johns within their location, because they were passing some order over. They weren't real receptive to moving them or changing the location, but the feedback I got from them sounded like they're under their mandates that they're supposed to, as long as that ramp is servicing people, that they're supposed to have restaurant facilities there, and that they can't rely on, they specifically told me they couldn't rely on our public restrooms. So if I would, they didn't come right out and say we're leaving them year round, but the indication I got is their protocol is unless they're justifying somehow that their ramp is closed in the winter, but I
Well,
can't
that's
fish
another-
and game. I don't think they could. I mean, because it's a huge ice fishing spot. You would think
Oh,
that
it
that
is.
would be.
It is. And they're gonna be bringing their trailers in there and unloading snowmobiles and,
Right.
I
know they've pulled the docks out already. It looks
yes,
like.
they have.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw that.
It's just a ramp that's being utilized now.
Mhm.
I told the staff that I would present it to the board as something for consideration so that they don't feel overwhelmed. As you know, we do move some people around. I have just lost a grounds and maintenance worker. He has separated employment as of last Friday. So I am down one person in that department. But I am, we can finesse things. It all depends on what winter does for us. And in that way, I am down two people in the highway department as well. So going into winter, I'm always looking for where we're gonna try to plug the holes here if in fact winter is not pleasant to us that way. And certainly, I've talked with the grounds and maintenance staff as to how they'll be having to assist us as well on the highway side of things, or additional parking lot, taking care of some of the parking lots as well going forward. So, once again, trying to figure that strategy out going forward. So I just throw it out to the board.
You were to go by your recommendation from December 1st, 2022 to April 1st, let's say 2023. You'd be shutting the water off, shutting the heat down. Is that correct?
Well, if we were going to do the full Monty, that would be the way to go. You could save the money on the heat. If in fact the facility is able to be safely winterized.
Oh, it used to be. I mean, I was against it when they were opening it up 24/7, 365 days a year because of the cost of heating because we're on oil.
Yeah. And that.
So if you did do that, the savings in oil could pay for the porta potties outside with no influx to your budget. Because there's nothing for that place to go.
I would think the utilities would, because you'd have
fill it.
electricity and you'd have fuel.
So,
Yeah, you
because there'd
definitely-
be nothing there to go through two tanks down there in the wintertime in a month.
Right.
Because it's always kept warm. It's not kept at the bare minimums.
Right, no, it's kept warm.
I feel you have to have some sort of there because what I've seen on the lakes from fishermen taking pictures of people moving their bob house, the feces that's left there, that it would only give them more excuse to
Right.
out there versus coming inside. So, I mean, I have no problem with it, especially if you're down helping, they're going to be scrambling. What I like to see weekends, yeah, but that means you're going to have to keep everything on and keep the heat at a minimum.
Yeah, you wouldn't be.
And you wouldn't want to keep it at a minimum down there because of the heat, electricity goes out, the pipes will freeze instantly on that brick building.
Yeah. And we are going to be faced with, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we are also faced with a concern that has been brought to me by our gentleman who's been handling the maintenance on the furnace down there, because that is a oil burner furnace. And it's in a storage room where we store paper products and our cleaning supplies for doing our custodial work as well. And because it is a open fired, burner, he is not comfortable whatsoever with us storing all that stuff in there and trying to maintain that as a combustible furnace. And has recommended and has provided a proposal, and I'm waiting for it. I'm trying to get another quote right now to actually replace that furnace down there with a gas-fired furnace for that purpose of being able to still be able to use that room for storage, because we don't have a lot of space for that other than moving everything down to the Alton Bay Community Center in the basement. And
Be fine as long as we definitely got to provide, in my opinion, in the bay. And it's not just the ice fishermen. It's for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm thinking about even just people coming in the bay to watch the activity that's going on in there. The restaurant's going to fill up and they can't handle all the load of, and I'm not taking their side. I'm just saying, if people are going to be in the bay, the first thing we're going to do is get complaints. How come the bathrooms aren't open? And there's just gonna be a snowball effect. People are gonna be asking what's going on, because they did during COVID. And if we are gonna shut it down and shut the water off, shut the heat off, drain it down, then we're gonna need at least 2 porta potties out there during that duration.
Which I think, like Ruben said, it's gonna, cost effective wise, they're gonna save.
Oh, it will. 2 to 3 porta potties. If we're gonna go that route, we need to have something, in my opinion.
I think we could also find out, we could see, we could probably manage with 2 if we know for sure that Fish and Game's gonna leave their 3 out.
Right.
because
Right.
That'll cover one side of the bed. We can play off of that.
Exactly, right, exactly.
And more people are apt to ride their snowmobiles over to the parking lot with the boat rather than try to
Mhm.
get out and walk across the street and do with their.
So, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
cut
no,
you.
okay.
I was just wanted to put this out so we knew ahead of time, if we do go that direction, would the board have a preference as to whether or not we put porta johns on the other side where the restrooms are now, or if we find a location closer to the bay? To the parking lot? And what's your thought either? Because then it's gonna be an issue of plowing and shovel, making sure they're shoveled out.
I would put them right down by the current
Current.
west side restroom.
Current
They
restroom?
That's
Okay.
the way
They
they
were,
were.
they
I
were
don't
just
know where
to
they
the
were during
right-hand
COVID.
side of the ladies' room.
Yeah.
That's where
last
I would
time.
put them. That way you got someone, the Fish and Game ones are gonna stay there, then the Fish and Game ones will be on that side. We'd have these on the west side. Do a handicap and then do a regular one. I think a handicap now is about 160 a month, roughly, I think, and then I think a regular one's like 135, 140.
You have any idea what the electric bill runs for the restroom?
Oh, I can pull it
I
up.
was just curious. I mean, I
Well,
know.
the lights are on 24.
Because I'm thinking it's about 160 a month now, probably.
I mean, I think it's be cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
What's the hours of that restroom now?
But we lock, they do get locked at
10 o'clock?
It's like
between
8.
9 and 10.
Yeah.
9, yeah.
And then I believe the day shift around 6 AM,
6 a.m.
Okay.
thereabouts opens it up.
And the east side is already shut down.
It's completely
That's
winterized.
already
Yeah,
been
that one's
winterized.
down,
That's
yeah.
already shut down, so we don't have to worry about that one.
Yeah, there's no heat there. so.
Right, right. So I know that one's already been shut down, so
Shouldn't you be shutting them down earlier? Because, you did mention in your letter here about vandalism.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I put December 1st was just because here it is already the first of the month, putting a notice out, getting, if you wanted to use portable toilets or you wanted to make a change in the sequence, we could at least get it out to the public.
No, I mean the hours of operation.
Oh, the hours,
Yeah, yeah.
I think
In the
oh,
in the regular season,
5 o'clock.
I'm sorry.
right.
Yeah, during the regular season, I was gonna say this at some point when we were talking about it, just as a recommendation from the years of observing it, is obviously the maintenance, the vandalism is much more occurred in the dark hours of darkness when people are utilizing the restrooms for a little more than probably using the restroom. Or they're in there just killing time in a non-productive way. So I would suggest to the board to consider even during regular seasons that the restrooms close down during the week, that we close them down at basically normal business hours, maybe 4:30. When I go home, because during the week, I'm talking during the weekdays.
Yeah.
But
When we have the
that's,
time locks there, just trying to get the right lock to work on the doors that we actually have, and that's been we've been back and forth with a couple different vendors to make sure that the locks are gonna work on the doors that we have, so.
and you can modify those hours
But you can
between
just
spring.
program it.
Yeah, between spring going into, I'm sure like June, July and August is gonna be a lot more activity down there throughout the week and the weekends with vacations and things like that. But there's some off months in between there too, where we might be able to save some money and prevent some vandalism.
All right, so how do we want to move on this? We want to close them?
well, if we do, it's definitely entertain then putting
Well, we got
2 to 3 porta potties out
Yeah.
there. It's just a matter of when we start.
Well, and that's the thing, we probably, if we're gonna do it, we probably ought to do it sooner than later, because they gotta get closed down and
Winterized.
winterized.
If that's the case, then you do it December 1st, like you suggested,
Yep.
and get it shut down, shut the water off, drain it down.
And then, when you want to open them back up?
Let's say
Like he was,
April,
it's either that-
April 1st.
December.
it's warm enough, so you're not gonna be
Is-
using the heat.
Yeah, right. Well, if we turn it back on, March isn't bad.
In the March.
Shut it down for 3 months.
April 1st, we open it back up.
April 1st is usually like I said, that's the, get everything off the ice.
Nice, yeah.
Seasonal water is turned on around April 15th. However, that Monday falls there with.
But even if the heat got turned on for a short period of time, I mean, we'd still be saving 3 months worth to,
Yeah.
you know,
If you did it 4 months, December, January, February, March.
right, and do it for 4 months. Or halfway through March, do it 3.5 months. I don't, whatever the board.
Is there anything
wishes.
going on in the bay in March?
Hmm?
Is there anything going on in the bay in March? I
Not
mean,
really. Not really. It's not as active.
Yeah.
No, so it wouldn't hurt and leave the porta potties there for them for that length of time. I'm fine with that.
And with 2 porta potties.
2 or 3, whatever we need, whatever we feel as though we need.
What did we use? On,
4.
had
We had 4, but we were
Yeah,
doing
2
both.
What, 2 or 3 on the other side?
Leave it to the
Doing both
discretion
sides.
of Scott to decide what,
If
with,
2 can, well, you would find out by the company.
if 2 doesn't work,
These things are a mess.
if 2 doesn't
need
work,
another one.
we bring in another one.
We need a 3rd one. They would tell us.
That would be easily adjustable.
Yeah, we can adjust that.
They would tell us. Start off with 2. Moving.
Was thinking about it.
He's just thinking.
Whose phone's gonna
I could
ring?
use another week, to be honest with you, to give it a little more thought. It's gonna raise hell. Automatically, excuse my language, it's gonna raise a
Yeah,
ruckus.
you're right.
Especially the first time, if you go and try to do it, especially on a weekend, then the
That's what I
porta
said.
potties show back up because they'll be worried COVID's coming back. I think really realistic, you're gonna have to do 3 on the other side.
The other side.
On the west side, instead of 2, a handicap and a single, I think you're gonna have to do 2, especially for the weekends. Once the snow hits, the weekend's gonna get busy. 2's just not gonna handle it. You're gonna at least have to have 1, if not 2 handicaps. And I think the handicaps would just be easier because it'd be easier to maintain. I have no problem with it, especially if you're shorthanded and you're being stretched thin. I have no problem. Because it is a lot of work. Especially if there's vandalism down there. Hopefully those cameras caught them, whoever it was. Hopefully the judges don't let them out with a slap on the hand.
Good luck with that one.
So 2 or 3 is good, but can we even take it one step further? And actually, because I said the same thing, I said, people are gonna complain if it's, and just shut down and not notified. Can we put something in the paper?
Oh, sure.
Let's put something in the paper, giving everybody a heads up what we're planning on and why. Because of the
So-
cost of fuel, the cost of energy, the cost of everything and staffing purposes to shut down this, what, does it not make sense to you?
Oh, no, it makes sense. I'm just thinking of the characters in my head because you get paid by the character. So I was trying to
But I mean, a rough explanation, so people are not blindsided. The mere fact of why they're closed, at least we made an effort. And we could even put it on Facebook,
Yeah, social media.
on the page.
I
on
mean, my
Facebook.
biggest thing is your staff. You do not have the staff to do it. There's no reason to keep, because the last thing you want to do is get beaten up over the head about having dirty restrooms. And the public restrooms are the worst place. And that's
Some
the
sort of
last thing you
explanation.
need. So to save face, bring in some porta potties, let a private company take care of it.
If-
Money you're gonna save on energy.
I mean, if the board would like, I mean, if you wanted to table it until the next meeting, I can certainly provide you with what I could put together for an estimated analysis based upon the shutdown and then what the cost is for the portable Johns there to be set up and do it that way. And then, you know, I mean, the big issue is like Selectman Wentworth said, as far as the staffing goes. I just, you know, we try to make sure we keep
Well, I think
them,
it's
keep them
important
clean.
to keep it clean
Um,
and staffing. That's what I was saying, staffing.
And there's no doubt, if in fact those porta potties aren't clean, they're gonna call. You know, and if in fact we have to endure some additional costs that way, then, because if they come out for additional cleaning, it's another $40. So that's what they charge. Just, it's you know, it's less money. I mean, I can cost out as to what our custodial staff costs us on an hourly basis based upon wages, benefits and everything all together. And I know, we know what her time is, what it takes her to actually do a cleaning down there. So that way.
Just to add, I mean, I think it's important. I think the board probably has an idea, but the public as well, understanding that we're not just talking about, when we talk about vandalism, we're not talking about just somebody spray painting a wall or something that we have to repair. A lot of this comes with defecating on the floor, urinating all over the building, and because what that does is not only a cost, but the custodial staff is tasked with cleaning that up, removing that. Yeah, it's really, you know, to a degree, it's hard enough with staffing to some degree, but dealing with that on a more regular basis becomes, it wears. I know, I just know from the police reports over years being there and stuff.
Yeah, it's.
I think the public will understand that.
I think they will too. And I think a good explanation, even if it's just a short paragraph of explanation of when we're gonna close it, when we're gonna reopen it. And for staffing purposes, we don't have to mention then about money issues or trying to save money or anything like that. But I'm okay to go ahead and go forward with it now, as long as we do a letter. Not a letter, but put it in the paper and also notification on Facebook.
Be transparent about it.
And be transparent.
Oh, yeah.
And on social media, we can elaborate a lot more.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just a
Exactly.
newspaper thing. There's
No,
it's
just a
cost,
small, just so people aren't blindsided. That's what people get upset about.
True.
All right. Do we want to table it or do we want to put a motion out?
I'll put a motion on.
Okay.
I make a motion to allow the Public Works Director to close the public restroom on the west side of Alton Bay between December 1st, 2022 to April 1st, 23.
Typo there.
23. And to install temporary porta potties to the bay at this time for this period of time. And to notify the public by social media and newspaper.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, I know. I see it. All right, old business, highway, Alton brick sidewalk replacement RFP approval.
So I put together an RFP, see if we can get some pricing in for doing the stamped colored sidewalks. With the understanding that, you know, it's a joint operated project where we would do the highway department would end up doing the demo of the existing sidewalk that's there. We're gonna pull the curb. Curb will be reset by others, being that we would bring our curb company in. They would come in and reset the curb prior to the new sidewalks being constructed. New sidewalks would be framed and all the prep and everything there under the guidelines that I've got laid out in here, basically under the ASHTO. I'm sorry, the ASTM basic standards that they have. These are all standards that are within the New Hampshire DOT construction guidelines for road construction and bridge construction. Town engineer helped me out in pulling this information together relative to mixed design and certain criteria that way. I just tweaked a couple things in here and And the town will be the person, I'll bring that to you folks there as far as the coloring and all that stuff. So we're all set with that stamped and then get provided a sample of that as well. Putting that together. Put their proposal on that.
Seeing here, you had a completion date of weather pending, of course, the 25th of May.
Yeah, so the idea would be that if we could get it wrapped up and in place by Memorial Day weekend, that would be my wishful thinking. As we all know, Mother Nature may drag things on at the beginning of the year, but I would think that we could get in there and hopefully be able to at least start getting stuff, even if potentially if in fact it get pushed out because of the weather, we could at least start, moving it up, as I call it, up the from east to west. Start out by the mooring, start up by the docks, get everything cast, and then continue all the way up through past Shibley's. And we're gonna have to coordinate that around the restaurant and how they are as far as how they're open and such, because those go in front of the place there. I believe they do shut down, I think during that time period, like a day during the week or 2 days during the week.
They do.
I know they're closed right now and they don't open back up until January 23rd or something, 20th, 23rd.
Correct.
If you hurry up and the weather stays the way it's been, you'll be all set to get it done before winter, before December.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to leave it torn apart, I mean, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
No,
Ideally, we'd like to be able to demo and then have them right in behind us, coming right in behind.
no, I agree.
Forming it and putting it up. I don't want exposed stuff.
has to
there.
work closely together.
Yeah, taping off those sidewalks would be worse than closing the restrooms.
Yeah. All right.
Notification when you're on that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we need a motion on this or is this just a consensus?
I think you need a motion to put the RFP out.
Okay.
Yep.
The motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to allow the Public Works Director to put out to bid for the sidewalk brick stamped with coloring RFP.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, highway equipment, CRF withdraw.
This is for, basically, we got lucky. We were told when we initially did our fleet vehicle bid that we were gonna be looking at close to 400 days for delivery on our pickup truck. The 550, we were able to receive that because it was in the order bank already from 2021, in the fall of 2021. So we were able to receive that. So the pickup truck had been in that so-called 400-day window. They did have one that they were able to submit in the order bank that came through as a 2022 and received at the dealership and is about, I think it's a little over $6,000 less in money than what they had actually bid on that. And with that in mind, I'd like to ask the board for consideration in allowing us to now withdraw the additional things for the vehicle itself, such as the plow, the radio, snow tires, that we generally do, the Line X, the bed liner and toolbox and accessories for that. This will be replacing the Dodge pickup, which will be moved over to cemeteries for them to utilize.
Sharon?
Yep.
I move we approve the purchase. $12,315.13 for the recommendations for the accessory for the Public Works 2022 Ford 350 4x4 pickup truck as presented.
A second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Scott. Fire Department. Airboat trailer discussion.
Good evening.
Evening.
As you remember, the Mark O'Connell Foundation had donated some funds. And part of that was to purchase a new airboat trailer. That trailer has come in. Now we have the old airboat trailer that is of no use to us. That was donated through the association. My recommendation is to go ahead and give that back to the Firemen's Association and let them dispose of it.
Fair enough.
I have no problem with that.
I don't either.
Sounds good.
Nope. We need a motion on that.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Boat disposal.
As you remember, we had put the old Eastern fireboat up with a $10,000 reserve, and it just didn't make that reserve. The highest bid was $7,900. So
Who did we put it out to bid with again?
that went through municipal bid, but it was cross-posted on a few places. There were some flyers in town. So it was posted in a few spots. Some people actually came by and took a look at it. Pat will know more about it because he's the one who actually posted it.
So it was posted in July through the month of August. So we wanted to hit, the summer months. Ideally, the spring would have been best, but we weren't ready to post it in the spring. So it was posted on municipal bid. It got a lot of attention. It got over 10,000 hits. So it was definitely generating interest. It was like a front page on their emails that they send out to all their subscribers. We cross-posted it with sponsored ads on social media. It was on Craigslist as well. Just some people still use that. With links to the municipal bid site. And it was also, the flyer was posted down here at the town hall and at the post office, as we commonly do with most town postings. So it did get a lot of attention. Bidding started at 6,500 and ended at 7,900 with 4 bidders. So the idea at this point is kind of just to see how you'd like to move forward. If we want to repost it.
What's the cost on winterizing that thing?
It's thankfully already winterized from last year. However, it is unwrapped. So it is going to cost us
$300-400 to wrap it,
probably to
$600.
wrap it.
I almost think, and then just me, but I think if we put that out back to bid in the spring, you're gonna get more money for it than you are in the fall. I don't know, but it just seems like $7,900 for that boat's a little. But you guys know the boat. I don't
And
know it as well.
we did reach out to that last bidder to see if he would be interested at that number, and he had not responded.
That was my question. My next question was going to ask you that.
That boat, does that boat have an issue with both the power plants?
Just the one that we know of needs a lower end
How's the,
at the very least.
how's the hull on that one? If you don't mind me asking. Mr.
Oh,
Chairman?
absolutely.
I know that there was some talk about that, but is that, because I know when the police department had their other whaler hull, the old sponge core started taking on water and it was lowering in the water. We had real issues with that. Did your boat have any issues with the hull like that?
Yeah, that's precisely why we had to move on the new boat, was that it was taking in more water than we could effectively pump out. The batteries would die in 24 hours because the bilge pumps were running so often. It had gone back to Eastern several times over. We put probably about $15,000 worth of fiberglass work in it, but new cracks keep popping up all over the place. As well as the stringers in that boat was plywood sandwiched between fiberglass, and a lot of that plywood was rotten.
Has anybody reached out to like M&M Boat Salvage or anything like that to see if they'd be I mean, that's got what, a 250 horse motors on the back of it?
They're twin 150s, but
150s, but they're, I mean, still to buy is that those are 4 strokes?
two-stroke.
Two-stroke,
Evinrudes, yeah.
okay, so you're still, to replace that motor is probably not cheap. Maybe somebody would be willing to buy it for the motors. I don't know. It's,
And that's what
I
it's
that's
think
about
that's
all
where-
it's good for.
I think that's where 79 got you.
Right.
Yeah.
that
That's
was the
what-
idea.
Somebody knowing they're gonna have to find and they're still gonna have to find something to do with the hull.
Right.
It
Yeah, it's
comes
gonna
without a
cost-
trailer, so they're gonna have to move it around and plus, reinstall a motor
Right.
and either dispose of or repair a second motor.
And the biggest problem with the engines again is that company is now out of business and parts availability is a problem.
I mean, we're not really a boat salvage yard either. We don't need it sitting around.
Right.
So, my question, like,
Yep.
what can we do? As we put it out to bid, we didn't accept. They didn't get to where we put the minimum on. Do we have to put it back out to bid? Or,
Or we put it back out to bid with a lower reserve and maybe people will go at
That's-
it a little harder if the
I mean,
reserve's a little
can
lower.
you, this guy that did 79, could we take that or not? Like, cause.
He's not interested.
He wasn't interested.
We could take it, but he was not.
Oh, he wasn't that
interested in it.
interested at 79.
We couldn't get back. We got back to him and
No, I didn't know how
Has it
that
been-
he did not come back to us.
Has it
So,
been put out to bid like publicly, like locally?
We put it on the one bid site, and then we told everybody where to go look for it.
Right. What if we put it out for sealed bid in like the town and whatnot? Because I know some people don't go to municipal bid because it's a pain.
I
don't know.
I'm here to do, whatever you guys want to do. I'd love to see it out of the.
I just don't think it needs to sit around is my thing on it. I don't think it needs to sit there if it's not gonna
Are
be.
you gonna cover it or not?
Yeah, that's the other.
That's the question.
That's really what it comes to. If we sell
You
it,
put it
no.
out now, you're gonna have to do something with it, because winter's coming.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it out for 30 days, right?
They suggest 2 weeks and we've been doing 2 weeks with municipal. In fact, the vast majority of interest comes in that last 12-hour period.
You want to put it in the paper for a couple of weeks and put it back on municipal bid for a couple of weeks and.
Missed it. I wouldn't put the paper
Yeah.
just costs too much, I would think, to advertise.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, the other thing that we can do
We
too
will put a
is
link online and we'll do so.
Where is it stored right now?
it's behind the
Behind
firehouse.
the firehouse.
The lean-to that's up the West Dalton Fire Station, what's in that? Or is it too big for that?
Too tall.
It's too tall. So when it did spend time in there, Andrew had it placed in there with a hydraulic trailer. So it was very, very low to the ground.
I say
I
we
mean,
go out,
If,
out again.
Put it back out to bid at the 79.
Yeah, because the longer it sits there, the less it's gonna be worth.
Right.
It's,
My feeling is you just put it out to bid.
yeah,
Highest bidder takes it, don't even put a minimum on it.
No reserve.
Yeah, maybe
reserve.
Or is it-
throw it on there with a low or no reserve and just move on.
Just move on. Yeah. Try to,
See what happens.
yeah.
Just get rid of it, because otherwise you're gonna store it, you're gonna pay another $300-$400.
Yeah,
to-
by the time we get done with it, we're gonna work our way right down to that higher bidder's
We
number.
can get rid of it now. Makes sense to get rid of it before you gotta do any more to it.
So
Cover it.
Okay.
we'll put it back on and let you know how we do.
take what you get.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
What's the status on that motor?
So good news. I got a call in the beginning of September that Suzuki had allocated us engines. So they're not Mercury, despite personally reaching out to Mercury and Suzuki, the two companies that Eastern had suggested. Mercury gave us absolutely no hope, even referencing a government public safety vehicle. And they just said, yeah, no, we're just in the queue. Suzuki said, we'll do some legwork and we'll find you engines. So Suzuki was able to pull through and find us engines. They're allocated and they should be in Milton by now.
Can I ask you a question? then?
Yes,
You reached out to Mercury and
Yes.
Suzuki?
yes,
Isn't that Eastern's job?
it is. So, I mean, they reached out to them as a dealer and I said, can I reach out to them from the municipality
Sure, it
standpoint?
wasn't put back in your laps.
No,
to say,
no, not at all.
We chose to try to put a little more pressure on them.
Yeah. Twist in the arm.
Using that municipal
I just wanted to make sure, that's all.
Yeah,
To
no,
be
not
honest
at
with you,
all.
I think the municipal is what hurt us because we're kind of locked into a price and right now they can sell everything.
They can
for a
sell the
much
motor
higher
for
price.
more than that to a average. So is that boat gonna be, you think it'll be ready for the water this spring?
Yes. Oh, without a doubt, yeah. It'll be delivery and sometime in April.
So, yeah, I mean, send it. I try to get as much as you can, obviously, but.
Right.
And just a little plug for the boat. We've done at least 10 or 15 boat calls this past fall. 3 of which were in one of the worst or some of the worst weather conditions that I've ever been on in that lake. And I was on edge on the police boat. So I just want to thank you again for going with a more capable boat because we truly go out in the worst environment that this lake can turn up in 4 and 5 foot waves.
And if you've never been out there, when one hits, you don't have any idea what it's about.
So just again, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Police department's just tough. Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Town facilities project quotes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so in your packet, you have 2 quotes. I did talk to 3 companies. There's only 2 written quotes here, and I'll explain a little bit and see what the board's wishes are. So since we had the public hearing and we discussed utilizing capital reserve funds to hire a team of engineer, architects to put together a proposal using a need study for each department that's in question and putting together a proposal. I reached out to several companies, one of which, so the first quote you'll see, there's one from Teagan Bond. Teagan Bond should be familiar with the board, a familiar company. They done a lot of work with us. They're doing some current work on some environmental grants and some engineering, stormwater stuff through DES. So Teagan Bond is an engineering firm out of Concord. They have a principal provider that lives here in town and has provided a lot of insight for Scott and the town on the engineering side of things. So they put together a proposal that incorporates a subcontractor, Banwell Architects. Banwell is actually the architect that Wolfboro is using right now. They came back with a proposal to put together renderings to do a needs space assessment, based on equipment, vehicles, dimensions, storage. As you can see, they have a breakdown for the phases and the meetings that this all includes to come up with all of this information, renderings, and information that the town will need. The important part of this proposal is that we own it. We own the proposal. This proposal isn't site specific. So after they do the needs assessment, they put together renderings. It's for us to do what we want. At that point in time, we can try to apply the infrastructure to whichever lot at that point. It's not lot specific right now, but it will give us our needs and size, dimensions, footprint, floor plans that would be needed to meet not only current, but future needs moving out, 20 to 30 years. Their total proposal came in at a lump sum fee of $55,000 for all those services provided. The second proposal is what you've heard. You've heard a couple of different discussions. I think the difference between proposal and a design build. So Groen Construction put together a design build, which is where Groen is a construction company itself that specializes in doing commercial municipal buildings. They built Farmington's public safety building. They built, I believe, Portsmouth Fire Station. They did a DPW building in Barrington and another one in Henniker, I think, is the one that we looked at on their website that was comparable in size. So Groen put together a proposal. If you'll see, they have Groen's Construction Services, which they're on hand to provide construction advice. They would be looking at doing their ICS, I think it's ICF block building, which is, they are the area's expert in that type of construction. They've been awarded you know, the area's best construction company when it comes to this specific kind, which is the insulated block construction, which is what they did. One of the things, we took a tour, myself and the fire chief and the police chief took a tour of Farmington's public safety building, and they did the block, the insulated block there, and the fire chief said that they were saving almost $40,000 a year in heating fuel based on their old buildings. And Farmington's building was in rough shape, similar to ours. But just the fuel savings alone in that massive building, I mean, because they have all those big overhead bays, a lot of open air, a lot of open space. So they put together their proposal, and you'll see that it has Gronin's construction services in there. And again, this is a design build. And they're utilizing SMP Architectural Designs, which is another architectural firm that specializes in municipal buildings. They're doing Kingston's fire station right now. And then the civil engineers that they had pulled together for infrastructure and civil engineering services is KV Partners. And they put this proposal together for a total cost of $87,425. So the third company that I talked to, I spoke with a representative of Bowen Construction out of Meredith. The individual here lives in town and reached out to the fire chief a couple times. So him and I had a conversation. Their company is actually doing the Kingston fire station right now. As far as the construction company goes, they've done the Meredith police station, which is a pretty elaborate building as well. They have a lot of schools and other municipal buildings under their belt as well. During their conversations, the way that they like to do things, he had talked to me about the architectural firm that they work with regularly, and that more in tune to putting a warrant article together to do all of the renderings, their architectural services and everything else. And there was no written proposal, but they were talking the number that was mentioned in the area, 300,000. As we continued the conversation, the reason it didn't go much further with that individual was very accommodating, wanted me to talk to the architectural firm in person or through the phone and hear what they had to say about the process, the needs assessment, everything else. So I did talk to the architectural firm. Come to find out, the architectural firm is the exact same firm that quoted out Gronin Construction's firm. So they were talking about a total different process and a quote in with Gronin's design build, which sort of threw me a little bit. I asked the gentleman, I want to make sure I was looking at the same thing, and he said yes, that they had quoted it out, and they were talking about a different process, because when they were Bowen's construction process, he emphasized that they were looking at for a 50-year building, which, you know, I think lends itself more to like brick and mortar block construction, which is fine. You know, I don't necessarily think you can't get a 50-year building, but that's just my opinion with other materials as well. But that would be up to the board if the board wanted to go to that. They were also talking a 5 to 10 year process between start to move in. And I don't really know that we have 10 years. Maybe 5. 5 is stretching it right now as well. So those are the conversations I have. I apologize, I don't have something in writing from Bowen, but that conversation where I had the same architectural firm talking about 2 different avenues. At that point, I didn't really know how to approach that. I mean, please don't take that as me giving you the impression that something shady was going on. I mean, it was all up in front and in the conversation. And I asked him straight up, I'm like, I'm looking at a Gronin proposal right now. Is this the same company? And he said, yes. And, you know, he said they work with many different construction companies and they have different methodology when they work with these different companies. And, you know, they have successful builds on very many fronts. But my recommendation for the board would be that we move forward with Teague and Bond's proposal for $55,000. So I think looking at and talking to a lot of other municipalities and different people that have been through this process before to get architectural renderings, a needs assessment, to get that information that we need and that the facilities committee needs. I don't think $55,000 as, I think that's a pretty solid price as far as what we'll get for that and be able to move on. Because at that point in time, once we have the information like that, it's ready at that point to put out to one of these bigger construction companies, or to put out, to put out to RFP. I mean, obviously you would do a full out bid package on something like this, but you have the information to actually put out to bid. And then, companies could come in and give us their best price on what we decide to build. The other thing is they're looking at doing a needs assessment and putting all of this information together. And then we have it for the 55,000. Doesn't mean that the town has to build all of that. Doesn't mean that we have to use every single, component of that, because we could just choose to say, okay, well, all we're going to do right now is we're going to build a fire station. But the point is that the design would incorporate future expansion. And that's what we don't have right now. The sites that we have, we don't really have any future expansion for. I mean, if you wanted to expand to the existing fire station, you'd have to demo the whole Parks and Rec area out back, and still you're in the floodplain at that point, and it wouldn't be really feasible. Same problems you have in public works. I mean, I don't even know if you have enough land, but you'd have to lose the salt shed out back. You'd have to incorporate everything. And I think there was wasn't there a landfill out back there years ago?
There's old dump.
Yeah.
Still there.
So
They keep finding pieces of it from time to time.
So that's the background on where we're at right now, and just looking to see what the board's feedback is on that and how you feel about it.
Well, I think this is the avenue we wanted to take, in past discussions. And it's planning.
There's a plan.
That's something I feel the town of Alton has lacked in the past. Time to address those facilities. We all agree, got to be addressed sooner or later.
I think sooner than later at this point.
Well, if we get this study, give us what we need for buildings, then we go see what we can do with land, what we can build.
I think by having a plan, and you said that once this plan is, we own the plan.
Own it.
So it's our plan to do with as we see fit afterwards. But I don't know how that would work. Is that, I mean, can we take that and give it to, put that out as a bid package if that's something that we like?
Yeah, because basically what this would look like, if you did it in this manner, is the architectural is the space, the floor plans. You still have the issue of the mechanicals and I mean, they factor all of that into it, but exactly how you design the system or whatnot. So it doesn't preclude you from putting it out as a design build.
Right.
Because there are going to be pieces of it that will have to be designed on or mapped out for it with the electrical and the mechanicals and everything else. I mean, obviously the architects, when they do the floor plan and stuff, they have the mechanical rooms in there, they have the chases, they have the space, but you can still do design build from here versus going in and designing or engineering all the
Right. No, I get how.
and putting it into a specific.
No, I get how this works. And that being said, I sat through the same thing with a big firm that laid everything out for you. And they had 50 pages and colored prints and pictures and how everything was going to work. And in the grand scheme of things, in the end of it, we did it ourselves and saved $6 million. So it's, this might be a little different scale. I don't know how that ends up in the end. And it is.
No, we need to expand.
Yeah.
We need to expand.
We need it.
Especially the fire department. And obviously the public
Public Works.
Public Works. Yeah, those are two focuses. It's no surprise when I say I don't agree with putting the police and fire department together. I just don't agree with it. And I never have. I question whether we need to do any expansion with the police department at this time. I think it's in a perfect location as far as the center of town and being able to respond quickly. They're centrally located, they're downtown. I still feel as though that is fine for the next 10, 15 years, in my opinion. We've already added on and spent money on that, a few years back to add on to it. But I really think our focus should be on DPW and the fire department as far as their buildings. And that's the way I felt from the beginning and focusing on that for a plan.
But at this point, what he's got is a plan and
Oh, I know, it's a
it's
plan.
reasonable. It's definitely reasonable.
Reasonable.
Because that's a way better price.
I just want to, I just want to give you more background on that to hopefully change your mind a little bit.
Okay.
Because the way of thinking, I agree with you wholeheartedly with what you said. The police department we even have plans that were done when I was down there to go up and put a second story on that you can do on that building. There's some structural issues with that and it would take a lot. But we had a plan done by Warren Street Architects back then, years back. And I still have the renderings down there. And we did expand. We put the Sally Port on. We took the 4-car garage and made an office space, but they don't have any car cover besides a Sally Port. Most importantly, the only reason why the police department would be considered in this proposal, and it has been the discussion with the facilities committee and with the chief, the fire chief, and everybody else, is the idea of we're trying to find a global plan for many departments in the town. Mm-hmm. So the thought is, and again, this is just a thought, it's some forethought into how we might work this out, is the fact that it's more cost effective to build a public safety building than it is to build a standalone Parks and Rec building or a standalone some other building. All right. The idea behind it is there's several departments in town that are struggling for space and needs. Their facilities either need repair or they're running out of space. So if this were to come to fruition and we built a public safety complex, you're right. Police department's in a perfect location, but it's also the only building in the perfect downtown location for any other department around here. So the thought was that if the police department moved with the fire department into a public safety complex, DPW, you could take Parks and Rec, move them to the central fire station, which is perfect for the recreational area. Water department, I would believe, would go with the DPW building. It's the plan anyways. And then you would be able to take and address some of the needs down here in town hall by taking and moving land use and all the build files and everything else down to the police station, and have another centrally located municipal building provide services. Because really you wouldn't have any place in the downtown area to put anybody, if anybody was ever going to move out of the town hall. But right now it's as it is, we're putting people in the basement. And we're probably going to end up doing that, but that's just a thought. It was more like you said, I don't disagree with you about the police department, and I don't think the police chief would disagree with you based on the conversations I had with him. It was more a thought of being able to repurpose that building for another town department.
And like you said, moving some of the other departments into the areas where the fire department is moving out is all a good idea. We've talked about all that.
Sure.
But yeah, we could always expand the town hall itself and its storage is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
For more storage. But
And we certainly would not, even if this was part of the design of public safety, we certainly wouldn't have to build that out. It's not, we wouldn't be, that's not, it would be there conceptually for the board to consider. But if we didn't want to do something like that, it could also be something that could be done in the future if needed.
It can be changed as well too, so you can change it, you can change.
Oh, yeah.
It's more of a plan to get things moving than anything, I guess.
It's a guide, it's a guideline.
What are the wishes?
Chair, I make a motion to enter an agreement with Tig and Bond for $55,000. As presented in the cover letter.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
This one,
Yep.
Ryan, you just made a good point that water department go to the highway department. Why not at that point then include the water department with the highway department? This way here, this could just be for overuse to storage down here. You still have your mechanics on board. I mean, even though it's a separate enterprise, you'd have to form some sort of a lease or go to the townspeople and say, will you give it to the water department where they're kind of separate entity? But I would think on that hand,
You do it
some of the
together.
equipment, it's not a very large water department to begin with. I'm just wondering, maybe
I'm pretty
consider
sure that was the intent when we had conversations, is that water would move to the new DPW building.
Okay, I just didn't know the way. you
Yeah, yeah,
said it,
no,
but
no,
I just
no.
think in general, when you're throwing some things out there, why not think of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
What would be moving over to the fire?
Parks and Rec.
Is the thought. I mean, there's
Parks
nothing
and Rec,
committed.
There wasn't enough room for both. Water department and Parks and Rec.
Well, water department's only in that little building right there. They've
Well, I know.
blowed out.
To eliminate that building, to move them over into the old fire station.
Oh, for the water department?
For the water department.
Well, I guess the big issue is that Parks and Rec is busting at the seams. They were one of the biggest ones that got hit by the Department of Labor with their stuff. So
They both
putting
couldn't fit in that building.
together.
Yeah. Parks and Rec and water department could not fit in that building.
I just think that it's very different, so different purposes and missions of departments. That it just doesn't drive back and forth to have that kind of equipment in Parks and
No,
Rec.
no, no. I've seen it shaking. I was thinking because the water department is so small where it is now, that building could just go.
Well, I think what they're gonna entail with Parks and Rec, Paul, over there is you'd have kids coming in, you'd have, and get the construction end of it right out of there, I would think, and
Yeah, I
put it
think-
over where construction belongs with Public Works. That way you're kind of separating the two. Cause you got the ball fields, the playgrounds and stuff out there.
I did hear the insurance company had an issue with meshing anything like Parks and Rec with a public safety. Like a fire department or anything like that, for that reason, because you have recreation with apparatus or emergency vehicles entering or construction vehicles.
We looked at doing a Parks and Rec / highway together, but with a concrete wall down the middle, one on one side, one on the other, and even the bond company was like, nope, we won't, it's gotta be two separate bonds at that point, because it's two completely different entities.
And we still have the land where the Parks and Recreation is now.
Mhm.
We still could utilize
Yes,
for something else.
yeah, we could utilize it, or if the board chose to, we might be able to, or the town wanted to, we could sell some property too and, generate income to offset some of the other construction.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
All right. Selectmen's reports, Paul.
Yes.
Can you take this just for a minute? I gotta run downstairs.
Yeah, selectmen reports.
Budget committee finalized their budget last Thursday night. So all they're gonna do now is primarily wait on the warrant articles. And once they get through that, they can improve those. They can probably have their budget hearing.
Sure.
So
Very good. As far as the master plan committee,
So I'm not going that way with a light.
the lights right on
On
the
the
side.
right hand side.
Turn around, like, something up and down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under construction.
I'm gonna go that way.
I go, be safer.
That circuit might be off.
The master plan committee will be meeting with the planning board for another workshop on the 15th of November.
That's what I have at this time.
I don't think he has anything. We'll go on to town administrator report.
Yep,
Okay.
Town administrator report.
All right. So I have a few things for you gentlemen tonight. Some are just announcements or thoughts. So first of all, it was mentioned earlier today, but I got a copy of it and I wanted to bring it up to the board is that the New England Water Distribution Services did complete their leak detection survey and provided a report on the 5th. And I will leave this for the board to look at. But the summary of it is that they performed a survey of 14 miles of leak detection with the ground microphone on October 11th. And they did not find any service leaks, main leaks, or hydrant leaks. So that was good information to have at that point. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is I got notice from FEMA yesterday. Nope, this morning. FEMA finally allocated money. We received a payment of $4,072.44. This goes back to a natural disaster that was declared back in October 29th. The storm was actually October 30th of 2017. We had serious flooding, road damage, washouts, and that was something that myself and Carrie, the former administrative assistant over at Highway, spent a lot of months calculating and putting together employees' hours, breakdowns of equipment used and materials.
2017.
2017.
Send it to Florida. They need it more.
Okay.
They're gonna have to wait that long?
Yeah, so what this payment represents is the management costs to put everything together and get the FEMA documentation that ends up being this big at the end of the storm. So we finally were allocated that money. It's come in $4,072.44. The other thing we got notice of is that that we were allocated. So House Bill 1221 passed, and what that did is it allocated $27.7 million for the employer share of New Hampshire retirement system to be paid out to the employers in the amount of 7.5% of the employee contribution for teachers, police, and firefighters in fiscal year 2023. I was told that our payment was approximately $27,000 that will go to offset. It goes into offset revenues based on the House bill that was passed. The next thing is we got the preliminary tax rate. So pleased to say that our preliminary tax rate is set at $11.37. So we are down a penny. So the question to the board at this point with that preliminary rate, would you like me to go ahead and approve that rate to move forward with DRA, or I guess the only question is whether or not the board has any indication of wanting to pay down the rate with the fund balance. My recommendation would be no, that based on the tax rate going down, that it wouldn't necessarily be needed at this point in time to start paying that down, because it becomes an issue with the boomerang effect. Because if you pay it down now, then it comes back and hits us.
What's in your fund balance now, sir?
The fund balance now is it's $3,382,814.
Last year, the selectmen used how much?
Last year, the board $720,000. I believe approximately 720 was utilized to pay down one-time warrant articles.
Yeah, but they'll offset the tax rate. Then they also used it last year, offset the tax rate.
I thought we did, yeah.
No, I don't think we used anything last year to offset the tax rate. Everything was one.
No,
time
you're
warrant
right.
articles.
We did do it off the warrant on it because you're right, because it affected the tax rate too much from year to year.
Right. And that would be my recommendation if the board was inclined to pay down anything with the fund balance, to do it on warrant articles versus the operating budget or tax rate.
My recommendation is not touch it, because in a couple of years, you're gonna be looking at a couple $1 million to start funding buildings. This would be one way to start putting away for it, so you don't have to hit the bond market. Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to have the town of Alton notify the ERA tax rate of 1137.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't think that's terrible considering where we're at.
The other thing that I need to, decision on the board of consensus is to set the deliberative date. Based on the municipal association calendar, if we stick to that Tuesday in February that we usually do, the start date, the earliest that we can have deliberative session, I believe, is the 4th, and then the latest is the 11th. So the only, looking at the calendar, the only Tuesday in that window is this February 7th. So my recommendation would be that we set deliberative for February 7th with a rain date of the 8th. Or excuse me, a snow date for the 8th.
Motion to set the 2023 deliberative session for February 7th with the snow date of February 8th,
Second,
23.
all those in favor?
Another announcement I just want to put out to the board is I was fortunate enough on Thursday to be invited to a luncheon where Courtney Mitchell and John Valero from the town of Alton and the Highway Department and Water Department received their Scholar One awards. Courtney is actually a Scholar Two, but the formal presentation for Scholar Ones took place. So I was able to be present for that.
Actually, master.
Master Scholar, I'm sorry, Master Road Scholar. Sorry, is the terminology, but I wanted to make sure that that was recognized for the board. It was a nice ceremony and the town was well represented.
Very good. Good. Congratulations.
Next thing I want to talk about is I had a request to have an update on the remodel and the HVAC, all the construction that's going on right now, where we're at, both status wise, monetarily wise, along those lines. So I'll start with the HVAC system. So the HVAC system, all 3 of the boilers, wall hung boilers, are up and running. The first floor and basement are all running heat off of that new system right now. The air handlers on the 2nd floor and 3rd floor are up in the attic. The 2 air handlers are in place. All the ductwork is run. The ceiling ducts for the 2 offices and finance, the hallway out here, have all been run. The ductwork extends here. There are drop ducts in Josh's office and the trustee's office and overhead. The only thing that hasn't been completed yet is the air diffusers in this big room. The only thing is he had to order a new ladder that was high enough to get up there. So everything is in place to utilize that and drop that down. The ladder should be here soon. That's the last part before firing up the rest of this system. The new condensers have been set out back in the line sets. One of the other things that we have discussed and are going to do is repurpose the mini split that's in the server room, because with the system, if we need to introduce cold air during winter months because the servers are running hot, we need an independent system to do that. With that said, one of the main concerns is obviously the eyesore, the condenser out front by the front of the building. So he is going to put a new line set in and run the condenser to a wall mount by the other 3 that are, or the other 4 that are out back. So that will take care of that, and the remaining mini split in the server room will be serviced and updated with the new line set. So there's additional cooling in the server room to protect that equipment. We are still on schedule to be online before having any significant weather events, depending if Mother Nature cooperates, but we should be up and running within a week, week and a half. What he has done, you notice that the condensers are still down outside. Most of the entire first floor mini splits have been taken out and removed. But those condensers are still in place. They'll be the last thing taken out because right now the second floor does have heat. It's running off the heat pumps in the existing mini splits right now, which has kept the building comfortable during those colder days. And currently at this point, we are $120,000 into the HVAC system. That was overall, if you remember, that was a $181,000 proposal. So we basically paid out in thirds, almost 60,000. The last payment will be a little over $60,000. The only addition to that was we had to do some plumbing. We discovered when they took the boiler out that the cast iron drain for the sewer drain going down in the back of the boiler room was cracked. So I had Hillsgrove Plumbing come in and replace that and replace some leaky plumbing coming out of the ladies' room that was in the boiler room. There's also a tin bucket down there that said, "Do not remove bucket," that was hanging up the plumbing. So he came in for a day, and I believe the invoice for that one, I couldn't find it before he came in here, was roughly $1,600 for all that plumbing replaced in addition. And the line set that is going to be purchased for that one is addition to the original quote. But those were the only two additions to the original proposal, and we're still on track for that original proposal. Now with the remodel, so we have the same company that's doing the third story, that's doing the restrooms. It's a subcontracting group, Eastway. So currently right now upstairs, the painters had just finished on Friday. So it's just about finished. The only thing I have to do is the electrician has to come back and cut in the recessed cans. The whips are in the ceiling, but they just haven't cut in the cans and connected them. So that electrical needs to be finished up. All the painting's done. All the flooring is laid. There's just this stair nose, a rubber stair nose that is here, just needs to be applied. So currently the things that we have done up there is they've terraced off the flooring. As you know, there was bleachers that went up at an angle, the ceiling slopes. So they constructed one level that is designed to it will house 8 lateral files all the way across the wall on that level. The second level it flattens it out for more storage area, flat floor level. And then there's 2 steps that go down to the actual balcony area. They preserved the railing. The railing was not demoed. They preserved the railing. They also preserved the initials and all the scribing that went in over the years. They did paint it, but they didn't sand it down. So it took away the character or anything like that. They put LVLs and the structural floor in, plastered the ceilings. We ran electrical. We replaced the old electrical with new recessed cans. The cans still need to be put in the hallway. There's 2 more cans in each office that need to be put in. The ones in finance have been done. The ones in the hallway have been done to take out that old track lighting. They've sealed the cracks in the ceilings in the hallway. They haven't given it the final coat of paint yet. These 2 ceilings are going to be painted out. Now that the painter's finished there, he's working his way down. The other thing that was done, and again, I'm just trying to, I want to let you know everything that's been done up to this point. All of the roof leaks that were discovered and brought to the board have been repaired. The interior brickwork where the cracks and the separations of the walls have all been taken care of, repointed and sanded down. We left because of the rot that came down from the chimneys up there. It had rotted and rusted the tin. And that also that mold that goes across the top is all hand bent tin. They can really recreate that. So what we did is when we had the infills that had to be done with the brick, and the fixing of where it was punched out over the window and things like that. We didn't put any, we just opted to leave the brick exposed. There was no insulation in there or anything like that. It was just, all it was plaster on strips of lap against the brick. So when we had to, given the amount of demo we had to do, we just left it off because I thought it would be most cost effective than trying to lap it again or build it out and fur it out and plaster again, the whole thing. Same thing with the ceiling. All we did was with the ceiling and the lakes and problems that they had, they cut out the damaged areas. We replaced them and then they plastered over them. And then instead of spending the money to plaster the entire ceiling, they did a paint mixture with silica sand. And that I did talk to them about that paint. Now I can't think of the name of it.
Calcium white paint.
The calcium white paint. They utilized that paint. They brought in a painter to do that was familiar with the process, and they came up with a mixture. I think you saw it there, Paul, in there, and Brock had gone up, but it wasn't a lot of lighting up there. When you got there, it was a little dark, but they did a nice job matching the texture, the rustic texture of the ceiling and going through. So, and then the other thing is downstairs, you notice that both of the restrooms have been demoed. All the fixtures are out, the walls were demoed, the wiring was demoed and pulled back. Plumbing came in and rough plumbed already. They've already hung new plaster and they've already plastered all the walls, ceilings, everything complete. It's ready for paint. There was tile. The tile was ordered for the flooring in there, and it has arrived. Just waiting for them to come back and now install. The painter is going to be moving down there. Priority is going to be to get those back up and running, obviously, and it shouldn't take long to paint those small areas. So he's going to go in and paint those, and then they'll be coming in to put the finished fixtures in on that as well. So to date, now this includes all the repairs, the roof, the brickwork, the chimneys. Oh, that was the other thing I didn't mention, that we replaced, they rebuilt the caps on the chimneys. He put crickets on all the chimneys, reflashed them all, and replaced all the shingles, pulled the nails out and plugged the nail holes that were in the valleys and recut the valleys. So currently right now with all the repairs, everything, we're at $129,959.43. The way that this has been working with them is that we've been paying a portion up front. So we're ahead right now, and I didn't really know how to break that out completely yet. So we're only a few weeks into our last payment. So the time and material being calculated, we're ahead right now. So I'm not waiting. I didn't want to give you the impression I'm still waiting on bills to come in. We've already paid all the material and labor up to this point, and we're ahead on what's going on down in the restrooms and the finished work that has to be done at that point. So, thank you. And then the next thing I just needed to touch base with you on, especially before we go into voting, Selectman La Rochelle had talked to me ahead of time. So a few months ago, I had some communications with the St. Catherine Driscoll Church. So we're under contract, and this is a memorandum of understanding with Catherine Driscoll Church, and this is for our voting, both elections, town voting. The memorandum outlines the dates that we're under contract, and we're under contract all the way through November 9th. For all of our events going forward. And then we go into a new contract. It outlines the stipulations. One of the stipulations is the number 4 says the town agrees to provide a certificate of liability assurance with the church listed as an additional assured for the dates listed above. That means they get a rider named from our Primex insurance. I think all of you know what that means as well, but basically they are covered at the levels that we are covered as a town. So this communication I got, originally came from the Archdiocese. Apparently there was a civil issue with one of their facilities out in the Midwest somewhere. It wasn't locally in New Hampshire, but they were sued, whether or not there was any outcome or judgment or anything like that, but they were sued for some sort of incident that happened on their property with somebody else's event. So they had come down to the churches from diocese and said that they now want to require anybody that's going to use one of their churches to provide an additional rider through their insurance company at, I believe it's $400 an event, per event, every day that's scheduled out for that. So that was communicated to me before last election, a couple months ago. Well ahead of last election. So I went back and forth. I was contacted by the office manager there. I was also had some conversations with a gentleman that runs the facilities there because he was here talking about the water testing in the wells out back there. I explained to them that we were, especially the office manager, that we were under contract or under understanding with them. I contacted Primex. Primex didn't understand why they were trying to require it because it's redundant. They're covered under our insurance. We provide that as part of the stipulation. And it's at much higher levels. They wanted us to sign off on a rider that was, I believe, was $400,000 through their carrier. And so we were under contract and it wasn't budgeted at this point in time. That if there was going to be a change made to the agreement, it would have to be done after we were outside of our agreement when we were in a new one. She said she understood that Father Cole probably, wouldn't want that, wouldn't want the town to consider going elsewhere or whatnot at this point. And that was the last I heard of it several months ago. But apparently there was some conversations over at the church today when they were setting up that was brought to the moderator's attention and then Selectman La Rochelle's attention. So I wanted to provide you with the background before you go there tomorrow in case somebody pulls you aside, somebody asks you about it. That's where things were left. I never heard anything else again. I never heard anything after last elections. Nobody contacted again. I anticipated that this was going to be a discussion that was going to be brought up and discussed as we enter into our new MOU going into the new year. But because there was discussion, and I don't know the nature of the discussion, but I don't want anybody to get caught, blindsided by something that was supposedly handled and resolved, but until we went into any, but if there's more discussion on it, that's the background supporting it. And of course, it was a decision that the board was going to be presented to make moving forward into the new year with the new elections as to whether or not we want to incur that cost for redundant coverage. But that of course that would be the purview of the board at that point. So that's the scenario. Does anybody have any questions about that? The last thing I just want to put out to the board, and we can discuss it, we can table it, however the board feels, but one of the conversations that's been going around through the state on the listservs and other communities in the town is the consideration. So Juneteenth holiday has become a federal holiday. It's on the federal holiday list at this point. There's talk now because of them talking to close the stock market as well for 2023 it was. So it's generated a lot of discussion. A lot of the towns have gone back to their boards and discussed it with them or put it out to them. Some towns have taken action, some towns haven't. Really, I just thought it was prudent because of the discussion and going federal that I bring it to the board. Let the board, I don't know if you were aware that it had gone federal. I wasn't until it started generating conversation because it just it didn't happen long ago. But I think it's something that the board should consider where it become, where it's being recognized as a federal holiday. So, like I said, it's not something, it's something I'm just bringing up tonight. I realize that. So it's probably something that the board would need to think about and possibly talk about it at a later date or whatnot. I don't want to put you on the spot and expect to have an answer in a discussion right now because it was, it's fairly new. So I figured the board would give it out to you some time to digest it and we can come back and discuss it at a later date. Okay. That's all I got. Finally, right?
Approval of minutes. Actually, I'm sorry. Yes, approval of minutes.
Motion approved October 3rd, 2022 minutes. Session.
Second.
Second.
We have to make a change on that, don't we, Stacy?
Oh, yes,
Do we?
yes.
There was something.
Says
See, Chairman, they have
Excused.
Holt down as excused, but I was here. Right? No?
Not on that one.
no.
Wait, well, no, excuse me. On the agenda approval, they have me down as being here, making the motion, and that was made by Brock, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw it said under, under, you're
And-
excused and then under agenda.
And Brock
proposal.
was here.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Brock was not excused.
Right.
It says he was excused and said you were excused, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was excused. I was not here. And I didn't make that motion. Brock made that.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as amended for October 3rd, public session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
October 3rd, 2022, non-public session.
And item 1 be divulged now.
Sure. Yeah, we didn't
Sooner or
take it,
later,
so-
we'd have to answer to why we didn't vote, take it over by deed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be up to the board's choice at that point. I mean, it's still legal advice, so it doesn't have to be divulged, but I don't really see if the board chooses to, I don't see there being a reason.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the non-public session minutes of October 3rd, 2022, and divulging item 1 being the only item.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
October 17th, 2022 minutes.
Make a motion to approve the October 13, 2022 minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. October 17th.
17.
I don't have those in here. I got them. October 17th, 2022 minutes.
Make a motion to approve the October 17, 2022 minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain again.
All right, now, consent agenda.
Chairman, make a motion to allow the New Hampshire DOT, Toby I. Reynolds and Hans Weber to come in and answer questions according to the draft, the Alton Guilford Route 11 corridor.
He's doing a consent agenda right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, that's all right.
All right, no, no,
That's all
no,
right, no.
I was ahead of you.
Hey, yeah, it's all good.
I move. we
The
accept the
consent agenda, right. Okay. The second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, Ruben.
Yeah, you had that one.
I already said it.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Public input.
Chicken. Hey, Lauren Cap. I was involved after the high school was done. And you really lock in on the architect, and it was a problem up there. So Brock, when you said, well, we'll do this architect and then we'll own the plans, right? That is not how it works. It was a big to-do up there at the school. I can't not, I know you mostly ignore what I'm saying, but I'm telling you, you ought to talk to the New Hampshire Municipal Association, because they could not get rid of that architect for the elementary after the high school was built. They did not want to use the same architect. They were locked in legally. You've got to know, you've got to look into this. I'm telling you, it's important. You got to look into it. There's a few people that were on that board still. I think Eunice Landry was on that board, and some of the other school board people that were on that board. You've got to watch out about this architect business. Really, I can't tell you what a mess that ended up being. So watch out when you hire an architect. You've got to really, really, really watch out. And the New Hampshire Municipal Association, or it's the same as the School Board Association, will provide you with all sorts of information about how to do this when you want to do these projects. They really has a lot of information for you. So I wish I could ask you to rescind what you did tonight, but I know it won't happen. But I'm telling you, it was a mess. And I'm kind of concerned. You're kind of, it seems like you're putting the cart before the horse. Where is the people's input into this, whether they want you to do this studying or not? Shouldn't you have a warrant article asking for the $55,000 or $87,000 to do a study for the I haven't heard any report from this facility study committee, and I don't even see it on the website. I haven't seen anything on the web. You can see the committee's work. I don't see any of that on the website. Am I missing it?
There was a presentation.
There was a presentation?
Facilities committee and everything. This was on their recommendation as well.
Okay, I didn't see it. I was out of town this summer.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about that. Ruben, I didn't see the budget committee on the web page either. There was nothing, there was no, on the web page about the budget committee meetings.
That would have to be taken up with the budget committee chairman, sir.
Okay. I mean, I would have been interested to watch their discussions. So I can't tell you enough. Watch out when you do this. You really, really got to watch out. It was a real to-do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Kelly Sullivan. So the plans for the facilities. So is there a contract that says that they are ours to keep? That does not lock us into them? That it does in fact say we can shop around for whoever we would like to use? Is that within the paperwork, like all legal, like and neat?
And before we execute anything, it goes through, everything has been through legal counsel.
Okay.
And
Okay, because I do, obviously you learn from history. So if Mr. Carr has said this has happened, we want to make sure that that does not happen again.
Sure.
So I just wanted to make sure that those Ts were crossed and those Is were dotted. That was my biggest question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Warren Carrigan. The attorney approved that one that the board signed too. So I can't advise enough. Watch out. They'll put a piece of paper in front of you and you'll sign it and then you'll get it right in the neck. Watch it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. I don't believe we have any non-public this evening,
We don't?
No.
so I'll entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?